Never trust a wolf in sheep's clothing. My grandmother warned me, but I took in 2 lost pups during a blizzard anyway. The pack arrived to kill me for stealing their children. They found their pups asleep on my chest, and the alpha made me Luna on the spot. Never trust a wolf in sheep's clothing. Nadia Gates' grandmother had warned her with those exact words, her voice trembling with ancient fear as storms battered their mountain home. But Nadia would learn that the real danger wasn't wolves pretending to be sheep. It was humans pretending to be civilized. When 40 wolves descended on her isolated cabin that October evening, teeth gleaming like knives in the moonlight, claws scraping against wood, Nadia stood frozen at the window, not from fear, from certainty. Because sleeping peacefully on her chest wolf pups, orphaned, helpless, hers, and standing at the head of the pack was him, the alpha, Gabriel. His golden eyes found her through the glass, saw the pups, saw her protective stance, and something shifted. Something primal and irrevocable. Nadia understood in that heartbeat. She'd just become either the pack's greatest treasure or their most justified kill. Chapter 1. The Unwanted Daughter. The town of Millbrook existed in the kind of perpetual gray that made people forget what color looked like. Nestled between mountains that seemed to lean inward as if trying to crush the valley beneath, it was a place where dreams came to die quietly. Nadia Gates had lived there for 23 years, and in all that time, she'd never once felt like she belonged. "You're late again." Her stepmother, Carol Cooper, didn't look up from the kitchen counter where she was arranging fresh flowers, expensive ones, the kind that cost more than Nadia's weekly grocery budget. "Sophie had to cover your shift at the diner. Again." Nadia set down her backpack, mud-stained from the hike through the forest. I don't care where you were." Carol's voice was silk over steel, sweet and sharp all at once. "Your sister has a life, Nadia. She has plans. She's getting married in 3 months to Earl Maxwell, and she doesn't have time to clean up your messes. Your sister. Never our daughters. Always your sister." As if Nadia were some distant Carol had been forced to take in out of obligation. Sophie Gates, golden-haired, blue-eyed, perfect. Sophie walked into the kitchen at that exact moment, her engagement ring catching the light. It was a monstrosity of diamonds that probably cost more than Nadia's car. "It's okay, Mom," Sophie said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Nadia probably had something important to do. "Right, Nadia?" The tone was unmistakable. It said, "You're pathetic, you're nothing, and we both know it." Nadia swallowed the bitter taste in her mouth. "I was checking the trails. There have been reports of what? Bigfoot?" Sophie laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "God, Nadia, you're still doing that wildlife tracker nonsense? You graduated with a biology degree 2 years ago, and you're still working at a diner and playing ranger in the woods. Don't you think it's time to grow up?" Carol nodded, her expression one of practiced discipline. Sophie's right. "Your father left you that cabin in the woods in his will, and you've done nothing with it. You could sell it, use the money to actually make something of yourself, but instead, you're out there every day pretending you're going to discover some new species, or save the forest, or whatever fantasy you've concocted." Nadia's jaw tightened. The cabin was the only thing her father had given her, the only proof that he'd loved her, even a little. He'd been a wildlife conservationist, obsessed with the mountains, with the wolves that were rumored to still roam the highest peaks. He died when Nadia was 16. And Carol had remarried within a year. Nadia's new stepfather had lasted 3 years before he too disappeared. Carol didn't seem particularly bothered by the pattern. "I'm not selling the cabin," Nadia said quietly. "Of course you're not." Carol turned back to her flowers, dismissing Nadia with the gesture. "You'll cling to that rotting shack until it collapses on top of you, just like you cling to everything else that's already dead." Sophie smirked. "Speaking of dead things, did you hear? They found another deer carcass up on the North Trail, ripped apart. Earl says it's probably a bear, but some people are saying it's wolves. She paused, letting the word hang in the air. Can you imagine wolves this close to town? Nadia felt her pulse quicken. Wolves. Her father had spent his entire life searching for evidence that gray wolves still existed in these mountains. The official report said they'd been extinct in the region for over 50 years, but her father had believed otherwise. He'd spent countless nights in the forest recording howls, collecting fur samples, documenting tracks. And now, 2 years after Nadia had taken up his work, she was starting to believe he'd been right. There are no wolves in Millbrook, Carol said firmly. Earl's right. It's a bear, or maybe a pack of feral dogs. Either way, it's none of our concern. But it was Nadia's concern. She'd seen the tracks, massive paw prints that were far too large to belong to any dog. She'd heard the howls late at night, echoing through the valleys with a mournful, haunting quality that made her chest ache. And 3 days ago, she'd found something that had made her blood run cold, a tuft of gray fur caught on a thorn bush, and next to it, a single drop of blood that shimmered silver in the moonlight. Silver blood. Her father's journal, hidden in the cabin, had mentioned silver blood. He'd written about legends, old stories passed down by the indigenous people who'd lived in these mountains long before Millbrook existed. Stories of shifters, of wolves who walked as men, of packs ruled by alphas whose power could bend the very fabric of nature. Nadia had dismissed it as folklore. Her father had been a scientist, but he'd also been a dreamer, prone to romanticism about the natural world. But the silver blood had changed everything. It was real, tangible, impossible to explain. I'm going back to the cabin, Nadia said, grabbing her backpack. Of course you are, Carol replied, not bothering to hide her disdain. Run away, Nadia. That's what you do best, Sophie giggled. Don't get eaten by the big bad wolf. Nadia left without another word. The cabin was a 30-minute drive followed by a 20-minute hike. It sat in a clearing, surrounded by towering pines, their branches forming a natural cathedral overhead. The structure itself was small, just 2 rooms, a kitchen and a bathroom, but it was hers. The walls were lined with her father's research, maps marked with sightings, photographs of tracks, pages torn from books about wolf behavior and pack dynamics. Nadia dropped her backpack on the floor and walked to the window. The forest was darkening, shadows stretching long and thin across the ground. She'd planned to spend the night here, as she often did, monitoring the wildlife cameras she'd set up along the trails. But tonight felt different. The air was heavy, charged with something she couldn't name. The birds had gone silent. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. Nadia grabbed her father's journal and sat down at the small wooden table. She flipped to the last entry he'd written before he died. They're real. I saw them tonight, 3 of them running through the snow. Wolves, but not. Bigger. Faster. Their eyes glowed gold in the darkness. I tried to follow, but they vanished into the mountains. I know what this means. I know what I've found. But I also know the danger. If the pack discovers that I know their secret, they'll come for me. I have to protect Nadia. I have to make sure she never follows in my footsteps. This knowledge is a curse, not a gift. Nadia's hands trembled as she read the words for the 100th time. Her father had known. He'd found the wolves, the shifters, and it had killed him. The official report said he died of a heart attack while hiking, but Nadia had never believed it. Her father's heart had been strong. He'd been in perfect health, no. Someone or something had silenced him, and now, Nadia was walking the same path. A sudden noise outside made her freeze. It was faint, almost imperceptible. A soft whimpering sound, like an animal in distress. Nadia grabbed her flashlight and opened the cabin door. The clearing was empty. The whimpering continued, coming from somewhere in the trees to the east. Nadia hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to stay inside, to lock the door and wait until morning. But the sound was so pitiful, so desperate that she couldn't ignore it. She stepped into the forest. The whimpering grew louder as she walked, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. Branches scraped it against her arms, and the ground beneath her feet was soft with moss and fallen leaves. The temperature had dropped, her breath misting in the cold air, and then she saw them, 2 wolf pups, no more than a few weeks old, huddled together beneath a fallen log. Their fur was silver gray, their eyes barely open. One of them was injured, a gash across its side, blood matting its fur. Nadia's heart clenched. She knelt down, reaching out slowly. The uninjured pup growled, a tiny, ineffectual sound, but the injured one simply stared at her with wide, frightened eyes. "It's okay," Nadia whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you." She carefully picked up the injured pup, cradling it against her chest. It was so small, so fragile. The other pup whined, pawing at her leg. "I'll take you both," Nadia said, scooping up the second pup with her free arm. "I'll keep you safe." She didn't know where their mother was. She didn't know if they'd been abandoned, or if something had happened to the rest of their pack. All she knew was that she couldn't leave them here to die. Nadia carried the pups back to the cabin, her mind racing. She had medical supplies, bandages, antiseptic, pain medication for animals. She'd treated injured wildlife before. She could do this. Inside the cabin, she laid the injured pup on the table and examined the wound. It was deep but clean. No infection. She worked quickly, cleaning the gash and wrapping it with gauze. The pup whimpered but didn't struggle. When she finished, she placed both pups on the couch, wrapping them in a blanket. They curled up together immediately, their tiny bodies pressed close. Nadia sat down next to them, exhaustion washing over her. She didn't know what she was going to do. Wolves, even wolf pups, were protected animals. She couldn't keep them, but she also couldn't turn them over to wildlife authorities. Not if they were shifters. If they were shifters, she stared at the pups, at their silver gray fur, and the way their eyes seemed almost human. "What am I supposed to do with you?" she whispered. The injured pup let out a soft sound, almost a purr, and nuzzled against her hand. Nadia felt tears prick her eyes. She was so tired. Tired of being alone. Tired of being the unwanted daughter. The disappointment. The girl who chased ghosts in the forest. She lay down on the couch, careful not to disturb the pups. They shifted, crawling onto her chest, their combined weight warm and comforting. "Just for tonight," Nadia whispered, closing her eyes. "I'll figure out what to do in the morning." She fell asleep with the pups breathing softly against her heartbeat, unaware that deep in the forest golden eyes were watching the cabin, unaware that the pack was coming. Chapter 2. The Search. The Alpha's rage was a living thing. Gabriel Houston stood at the edge of the ravine, his massive frame silhouetted against the rising moon, and felt the fury coursing through his veins like molten iron. His pack surrounded him, 15 wolves in human form, their eyes glowing gold in the darkness, their bodies tense and ready for violence. How long? His voice was low, controlled, but everyone present could hear the danger beneath it. Rodolfo Pineda, his beta, stepped forward. His face was grim, a fresh scar running across his jaw from the fight 3 nights ago. 6 hours, Alpha. We've searched every inch of the North Territory, no sign of them. Gabriel's hands clenched into fists. 6 hours. His nephews, his brother's sons, had been missing for 6 hours. Tyler Cooley's pups, born just 3 weeks ago, taken from their den while the pack had been defending their territory from rogues. Tyler was dead, so was his mate, Alfreda Vega. They died protecting the pack from an ambush, and Gabriel had promised that he would keep their sons safe, and he'd failed. The rogues? Gabriel's voice was a growl now, his wolf pushing at the surface, demanding to be released. "Gone," Rodolfo said. "We killed 5 of them. The rest fled across the eastern border." But Alpha, he hesitated. "The pups weren't with them. We found the den empty. No blood, no signs of struggle. It's like someone just took them." Gabriel's eyes flashed gold. "Someone did take them, and when I find out who, I'm going to rip their throat out." Bob Edwards, the pack's tracker, emerged from the tree line. His clothes were torn, mud smeared across his face. "Alpha, I found something." Gabriel was moving before Bob finished speaking, crossing the distance in 3 strides. "What?" Bob held out his hand. In his palm lay a small piece of fabric, blue, worn, smelling faintly of lavender and human. Gabriel's wolf snarled inside his mind. "A human took them? The scent trail leads west," Bob said, "toward Millbrook. Whoever it was, they walked through the forest on foot. They're not trained, the trail is easy to follow. They were carrying both pups. Then we follow." Gabriel's voice was absolute. "We find this human, and we make them pay for touching what's ours." Rodolfo placed a hand on Gabriel's shoulder, a gesture only the beta could make without risking his life. "Gabriel, if a human has the pups, they might not know what they are. They could have found them injured, thought they were regular wolf pups. We should approach carefully." Gabriel turned, his eyes blazing. "Carefully? Tyler and Alfreda are dead. Rodolfo, their sons are missing, and you want me to be careful? I want you to think, like an alpha, not a grieving uncle," Rodolfo said firmly. "If we storm into Millbrook and slaughter a human, the authorities will come. They'll investigate. They'll discover things we've spent centuries keeping hidden. We need to be smart about this." Gabriel's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed at him to shift, to let his wolf take control, to hunt down whoever had taken the pups and tear them limb from limb. But Rodolfo was right. The pack's survival depended on secrecy. They'd lived in these mountains for generations, hidden from human eyes, protecting their territory and their bloodlines. One mistake could destroy everything. "We go in human form," Gabriel said finally. "We track the scent to wherever this human lives, and we take back what's ours. If they've harmed the pups," he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The pack moved as one, flowing through the forest like shadows. Gabriel led them, his senses heightened, every nerve ending alive with the need to find his nephews. The scent trail was strong. Bob was right. Whoever had taken the pups wasn't trying to hide their tracks, an amateur or someone incredibly foolish. They moved swiftly through the darkness, covering miles in minutes. The forest thinned as they approached the western edge of their territory, and Gabriel caught the scent of wood smoke and something else, something familiar. He stopped abruptly, his hand raised in a signal. The pack froze behind him. "What is it?" Rodolfo whispered. Gabriel inhaled deeply, sorting through the layers of scent. Wood smoke, pine, lavender, and underneath it all, something that made his wolf pause, confused. "I know this scent," Gabriel said slowly. "I've smelled it before. Where?" Gabriel's mind raced back through memories. 2 years ago, a burial in Millbrook. He'd attended in human form, watching from a distance as the town mourned one of their own. A man named James Gates, a wildlife conservationist who'd gotten too close to discovering the pack's existence. Gabriel had given the order himself. Make it look like a heart attack. Make it clean. And at the funeral, there'd been a girl, young, dark-haired, standing apart from the crowd with grief written across her face. She'd smelled like lavender and pine, like she spent more time in the forest than in civilization. James Gates's daughter. "The cabin," Gabriel said suddenly. "There's a cabin on the western edge of our territory. It belonged to the conservationist we dealt with 2 years ago." Rodolfo's eyes widened. "His daughter lives there?" "Part-time," Bob confirmed. "I've seen her on the trails. She sets up cameras, monitors wildlife. She's harmless." "No one who takes shifter pups is harmless," Gabriel snapped. But even as he said it, doubt crept in. If the girl was like her father, if she was simply a conservationist who'd stumbled upon 2 injured wolf pups, then she wasn't a threat. She was just unlucky. The pack continued moving, and within 20 minutes they reached the clearing. The cabin sat in the center, dark except for a single lamp glowing in the window. Smoke curled from the chimney. Gabriel approached slowly, his pack fanning out behind him, surrounding the structure. Every exit was covered. If the human tried to run, they'd be caught within seconds. He stepped onto the porch, the wood creaking under his weight. Through the window, he could see the interior of the cabin, small, cluttered with maps and research equipment. And on the couch, Gabriel's breath caught. The pups were there, both of them, alive, curled up on the chest of a young woman who was fast asleep. One of the pups, the injured one, was bandaged, the wound clearly treated with care. They looked peaceful, content, their tiny bodies rising and falling with the rhythm of the woman's breathing. Gabriel's wolf, which had been howling for blood just moments ago, went completely silent. The woman was beautiful in an understated way. Dark hair spread across the pillow, long lashes resting against pale cheeks, lips slightly parted. She looked exhausted, like she'd spent every ounce of energy caring for the pups before collapsing into sleep. And the pups, they trusted her, completely, utterly. They'd fallen asleep on her chest in the most vulnerable position possible, because they felt safe with her. Rodolfo appeared at Gabriel's side, peering through the window. Alpha? Gabriel didn't respond. He couldn't tear his eyes away from the scene inside the cabin. What do we do? Rodolfo pressed. Gabriel's mind was a storm of conflicting emotions. Protocol demanded that he eliminate any human who came into contact with shifter pups. It was the law, written in blood centuries ago. Humans couldn't be trusted. They were dangerous, unpredictable, and keeping them alive risked exposure. But this woman, she'd saved Tyler's sons. She'd found them injured and alone, and instead of abandoning them or turning them over to authorities, she'd brought them to safety. She'd cleaned the wound, bandaged it, kept them warm. She'd shown them mercy. Alpha, Rodolfo said again, his tone urgent. The pack is waiting for your order. Gabriel turned to face his beta. Tell them to hold position. No one enters the cabin. What, Gabriel? We need to. I said hold position. Gabriel's voice was alpha command, the kind that couldn't be disobeyed. Rodolfo's jaw snapped shut, his wolf submitting instantly. Gabriel turned back to the window. He needed to think. Needed to understand what he was feeling. The woman shifted in her sleep. And one of the pups, the injured one, let out a soft whimper. Immediately, without waking, the woman's hand moved to stroke the pup's head. Her fingers gentle, soothing. The pup relaxed, nuzzling against her palm. Gabriel felt something crack inside his chest. This woman had done what he'd failed to do. She'd protected Tyler's sons. She'd kept them safe when Gabriel hadn't been there. And now he was supposed to kill her for it? We wait, Gabriel said finally. We wait until she wakes up, and then we talk. Rodolfo stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Talk? Alpha? She's a human. She's seen the pups. She probably already knows what they are. If she knew what they were, she wouldn't have brought them here, Gabriel said. She would have run or called someone. She thinks they're regular wolf pups. And when she finds out the truth? Gabriel's eyes glowed gold in the darkness. Then we'll deal with it. But I won't kill someone who saved my brother's sons now without understanding why. Rodolfo looked like he wanted to argue, but he knew better. When Gabriel made a decision as Alpha, it was final. The pack won't like this, Rodolfo warned. The pack will do as I command, Gabriel said coldly. Post guards around the perimeter. No one gets in or out. And if anyone disobeys me, he let the threat hang in the air. Rodolfo nodded and disappeared into the darkness, relaying orders. Gabriel remained at the window, watching the woman sleep. She had no idea that 15 wolves surrounded her cabin. No idea that her life hung by a thread. No idea that the alpha of the most powerful pack in the region was standing outside her door, trying to decide whether to kill her or thank her. Inside the cabin, Nadia stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked down at the pups on her chest and smiled a soft, genuine smile that made Gabriel's wolf whine with something he couldn't name. And then she froze. Her head turned toward the window, her eyes widening as she saw Gabriel's silhouette through the glass. For a moment, Neither of them moved. Then Nadia's hand slowly reached for something on the side table. A small hunting knife, Gabriel realized. She gripped it tightly, her other arm wrapping protectively around the pups. Gabriel raised his hand slowly, a gesture of peace. Then he pointed to the door. "Let me in," the gesture said. "We need to talk." Nadia's eyes darted between Gabriel and the pups. Her expression was a mix of fear and defiance. She was terrified, but she wasn't going to let him take the pups without a fight. Gabriel felt a grudging respect bloom in his chest. She had no idea who he was, no idea what he was. And yet she was ready to defend 2 wolf pups with nothing but a knife and sheer determination. Slowly, Gabriel reached for the door handle. The moment he touched it, every wolf in the clearing tensed, ready to attack if their alpha gave the signal. But Gabriel simply opened the door and stepped inside, his movements calm, non-threatening. Nadia scrambled to her feet, the pups tumbling gently onto the couch. She held the knife out in front of her, her hand shaking. "Stay back," she said, her voice steadier than Gabriel expected. "I don't know who you are, but you need to leave now." Gabriel closed the door behind him and stood perfectly still. "I'm not here to hurt you." "Then why are you here?" Nadia's eyes flicked to the pups. "You're here for them, aren't they? These are your wolves." Gabriel's expression didn't change. "They're my nephews." Nadia blinked, confusion flickering across her face. "You're what?" "My nephews," Gabriel repeated. "Their parents were killed 3 nights ago. The pups went missing. I've been searching for them." "You're lying," Nadia said, but her voice was uncertain. "Wolves don't have nephews." Gabriel's eyes glowed gold just for a second. "These aren't ordinary wolves. Nadia Gates, and I think deep down you already know that." Nadia's breath hitched. "How do you know my name?" "I know a lot of things about you," Gabriel said quietly. "I know your father was James Gates. I know he spent his life searching for wolves in these mountains. I know you've taken up his work." He paused. "And I know you found something 3 days ago that scared you. Silver blood." The knife slipped slightly in Nadia's grip. "How? Because you're standing in my territory," Gabriel said. "And you've been walking through my forests for 2 years, setting up cameras, collecting samples, getting closer and closer to discovering what your father died trying to prove." Nadia's face went pale. "My father died of a heart attack." "Your father was killed because he learned too much," Gabriel said bluntly. "And now you've done the same thing. You've found my nephews, you've brought them into your home. And that means I have a decision to make." "What decision?" Nadia's voice was barely a whisper. Gabriel took a step closer. "Whether to let you live." Chapter 3: Between Mercy and Murder. The silence in the cabin was suffocating. Nadia's heart hammered against her ribs as Gabriel Houston, if that was even his real name, stared at her with those impossibly golden eyes. Eyes that no human should have. Eyes that confirmed every impossible theory her father had written in his journal. Shifters. They were real. And this man, this thing, was threatening to kill her. "You killed my father." Nadia's voice shook, but not with fear. With rage, pure, white-hot rage that burned through the terror. "You murdered him because he knew the truth." Gabriel's expression didn't change. "I gave the order. My beta carried it out. It was quick, painless, more mercy than we usually show humans who discover our existence." "Mercy?" Nadia laughed, a broken sound. "You call murder mercy? I call survival what it is," Gabriel said coldly. "Your father was documenting our movements. He had photographs, recordings, DNA samples. If he published his findings, every scientist and hunter in the country would have descended on these mountains. My pack would have been slaughtered or captured. So yes, I made a choice. His life for hundreds of mine." Nadia felt tears burning her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She'd mourned her father for 2 years, believing the lie that his heart had simply given out. But now, standing face to face with his killer, the grief came rushing back with devastating force. "And now you're going to kill me too?" she said flatly. Gabriel took another step closer. Nadia raised the knife higher, but they both knew it was useless. If he wanted her dead, the blade wouldn't stop him. That depends, Gabriel said. On what? On whether you can be trusted. Nadia barked out another laugh. Trusted? You just admitted to murdering my father, and I'm the one who needs to prove I'm trustworthy? Gabriel's jaw tightened. Your father made a choice to pursue knowledge that could destroy my people. You've made a different choice. He glanced at the pups on the couch. You found my nephews injured and alone, and instead of leaving them to die or calling wildlife authorities, you brought them here. You treated their wounds. You kept them safe. They're babies, Nadia said, her voice cracking. What kind of monster leaves babies to die? The smart kind, Gabriel said quietly. The kind who values their own life over two wolf pups they've never met. I'm not that person. I know. Gabriel's eyes locked onto hers. And for the first time, Nadia saw something other than cold calculation in his gaze. That's why I'm standing here talking to you instead of killing you. Nadia's grip on the knife loosened slightly. What do you want from me? Gabriel moved to the couch and knelt down beside the pups. The injured one, his nephew, stirred, opening his eyes. When he saw Gabriel, he let out a soft, happy yip and crawled toward him. Gabriel picked up the pup with a gentleness that seemed impossible for someone his size. He examined the bandage, his fingers careful, reverent. You did good work, he said softly. The wound is clean, he'll heal. Of course he will, Nadia said. I'm a biologist. I know how to treat animal injuries. Gabriel looked up at her. He's not an animal. Neither of them are. In a few weeks, they'll shift into human form for the first time. They'll be boys, toddlers essentially, and they'll need someone to care for them until they're old enough to control their transformations. Nadia's mind reeled. They're their children? They're shifters, Gabriel corrected. Born in wolf form, but they'll spend most of their lives as humans. Right now, they're vulnerable, helpless. Their parents died protecting the pack from rogues, other shifters who don't follow pack law. These pups are orphans. The second pup crawled over to Nadia, pawing at her leg. Without thinking, she picked him up, cradling him against her chest. He nuzzled into her neck, and Nadia felt her heart clench. Why are you telling me this? She whispered. Gabriel stood, still holding the injured pup. Because I'm giving you a choice, the same choice I gave your father, though he didn't know it at the time. What choice? You can forget this ever happened, Gabriel said. I'll take the pups back to my pack. You'll never see them again, and in exchange, you'll stop your research. You'll stop searching for wolves in these mountains. You'll live your life in Millbrook and pretend none of this exists. And if I refuse? Gabriel's eyes glowed gold again. Then I'll do what I should have done the moment I found you. I'll eliminate the threat. Nadia's breath caught. That's not a choice. That's blackmail. That's reality, Gabriel said. You're standing in a world you don't understand, surrounded by creatures who could tear you apart in seconds. The only reason you're still alive is because you saved these pups, but that goodwill has limits. Nadia looked down at the pup in her arms. He was so small, so trusting. She'd spent the last 2 years trying to prove her father's theories correct, trying to find evidence of wolves that shouldn't exist. And now, holding one of those wolves, she realized the cost of that knowledge, her life, or her father's legacy. There's a third option, Nadia said quietly. Gabriel raised an eyebrow. Is there? You said the pups need someone to care for them until they can control their transformations. Let me do it. The air in the cabin went very still. Gabriel stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You want to raise shifter pups? I want to help them, Nadia said firmly. Their parents are dead. They're orphans, like you said. And they trust me. She gestured to the pup in her arms, who had fallen back asleep against her chest. Look at him. He feels safe with me. That's because he's a baby, Gabriel said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. He doesn't know any better. Maybe, Nadia conceded. Or maybe it's because I'm the first person who's shown him kindness since his parents died. Either way, I can help. I have medical training. I understand animal behavior. And this cabin is isolated. No one from town comes up here. Gabriel shook his head. It's too dangerous. You're human. If the pack finds out I'm letting a human care for shifter pups, they'll revolt. I'll lose my authority as alpha. Then don't tell them, Nadia said. Let me keep the pups here for a few weeks, just until the injured one is healed. Once he's strong enough, you can take them back. The pack never has to know. And what do you get out of this? Gabriel's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Why would you risk your life to help creatures you didn't even know existed an hour ago? Nadia met his gaze steadily. Because my father spent his entire life searching for proof that your kind existed. He believed in you. He believed that wolf shifters were worth protecting, worth preserving, and you killed him for it. Her voice hardened. I can't bring him back, but I can honor his memory by doing what he would have done, by helping these pups survive. Gabriel was silent for a long moment. The injured pup in his arms stirred, whimpering softly. Gabriel stroked his head, and the pup settled. You don't understand what you're asking for, Gabriel said finally. If you do this, you'll be bound to my pack. You'll be under my protection, but also under my authority. If you betray us, if you tell anyone about our existence, I won't hesitate to kill you. I understand, Nadia said. Do you? Gabriel took a step closer, his presence overwhelming. I'm not a good man, Nadia Gates. I've killed humans. I've destroyed lives. I do what's necessary to protect my pack, and I don't lose sleep over it. If you become part of this world, you'll see things that will haunt you. You'll learn truths that will make you question everything you thought you knew about humanity and nature. I already know the worst truth, Nadia said quietly. I know you killed my father, and I'm still standing here offering to help your nephews. What does that tell you? Gabriel's expression softened just barely. It tells me you're either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Maybe I'm both. A ghost of a smile crossed Gabriel's face. Maybe you are. He walked to the door and opened it. Immediately, Rodolfo appeared on the porch, his expression tense. Alpha, what's happening? Change of plans, Gabriel said. The human, Nadia, will be caring for the pups temporarily. She's under my protection. Spread the word to the pack. Anyone who harms her answers to me. Rodolfo's eyes widened. Alpha, you can't be serious. She's human. She'll do exactly as I say. Gabriel interrupted, his voice laced with alpha command. Or she'll die, those are the terms. Now go. Rodolfo's jaw clenched, but he nodded and disappeared into the darkness. Gabriel turned back to Nadia. You have 2 weeks. The injured pup needs time to heal, and I need time to figure out how to explain this to my pack without causing a civil war. During that time, you don't leave this cabin without my permission. You don't contact anyone in town. You don't take photographs or keep records of anything you see. Understood? Understood, Nadia said. Gabriel walked back to her and gently took the sleeping pup from her arms. He placed both pups back on the couch, wrapping them in the blanket. Then he pulled a small leather cord from his pocket, a necklace with a silver pendant shaped like a wolf's head. Wear this, he said, placing it in her hand. It carries my scent. Any shifter who comes across you will know you're under my protection. Nadia stared at the necklace. The silver was warm, almost alive in her palm. What happens after 2 weeks? Gabriel's golden eyes bore into hers. That depends on you. If you've proven yourself trustworthy, we'll discuss long-term arrangements. If not, he didn't finish the sentence. Nadia slipped the necklace over her head. The pendant rested against her chest, heavy and strange. I won't betray you, she said. You'd better not, Gabriel replied. Because if you do, your father's death will look merciful compared to what I'll do to you. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. I'll send someone by tomorrow with supplies, food for you and the pups, medical equipment, anything you need. Don't try to leave the cabin. My wolves are watching. Wait, Nadia called out. Gabriel stopped. What are their names? The pups. Gabriel glanced back at the couch where the two pups slept peacefully. His expression softened with a grief so raw it made Nadia's chest ache. The injured one is Cody, he said quietly. The other is Rex. Their father, my brother, named them the day they were born. His voice cracked, just barely, 3 days before he died protecting them. And then he was gone, disappearing into the night like a shadow. Nadia stood alone in the cabin, the weight of the silver pendant heavy against her skin, and looked at the two sleeping pups, Cody and Rex. Orphans, just like her. She walked to the couch and sat down beside them. Immediately they crawled toward her, seeking warmth and comfort. Nadia wrapped her arms around them, feeling their tiny heartbeats against her skin. I won't let anything happen to you, she whispered. I promise. Outside, hidden in the darkness, Gabriel watched through the window. His beta appeared beside him, silent and waiting. You're making a mistake, Rodolfo said quietly, trusting a human, especially the daughter of the man we killed. Gabriel didn't look away from the window, from the sight of Nadia, holding his nephews, with a tenderness that made his wolf ache with something he refused to name. Maybe, Gabriel said, or maybe I'm finally making the right choice. And if she betrays us? Gabriel's eyes glowed gold in the darkness. Then I'll do what I always do. I'll eliminate the threat. No matter how much it costs me. But even as he said the words, watching Nadia stroke Cody's head with gentle fingers, Gabriel knew he was lying to himself. Because something had shifted the moment he'd seen her with his nephews. Something primal and undeniable. His wolf had recognized her, and that recognition terrified him more than any rogue attack ever could. Like this video, if you believe Nadia deserves better than this, better than being trapped between a monster's mercy and a promise she might not survive keeping. Because people like Nadia need an audience that won't abandon them when the wolves close in. Drop a comment if Nadia's pain is your pain too. Tell me, would you have made the same choice? Or would you have run the moment those golden eyes appeared in the darkness? Chapter 4. When Monsters Show Their Hearts. The first 3 days were the hardest. Nadia woke each morning to the soft whimpering of the pups, their tiny bodies pressed against her side. Cody's wound was healing well. Shifter healing, she realized, was faster than normal wolves, but he still needed careful monitoring. Rex, the uninjured one, had attached himself to Nadia with a fierce devotion that both warmed and broke her heart. Every time she moved, he followed. Every time she sat down, he climbed into her lap. And every night, both pups refused to sleep anywhere except on her chest. Their combined weight, a constant reminder of the impossible choice she'd made. She was caring for children, not animals. Children who would one day walk and talk, and remember that she'd been there when they needed someone most. The thought terrified her. On the second day, a massive wolf appeared at her door, coal-black with amber eyes. Nadia's heart had nearly stopped until she saw the leather satchel in its mouth. The wolf dropped the bag on the porch, fixed her with an unreadable stare, then vanished into the forest. Inside the satchel, formula specifically designed for shifter pups, medical supplies, dried meat, canned goods, and a handwritten note in sharp angular script. Mix 1 scoop of formula with warm water 3 times daily. Keep the bandage clean and dry. Change it every 12 hours. If Cody's temperature spikes above 102 degrees F, use the emergency contact number below. Don't make me regret this decision. G. A phone number was scrolled at the bottom. Nadia had stared at the note for a long time, her fingers tracing the harsh lines of Gabriel's handwriting. He thought of everything the pup's dietary needs, her safety, even emergency protocols. It was almost considerate, which made him more dangerous somehow. Monsters were supposed to be simple, easy to hate. Gabriel Houston was neither. Now, on the 4th morning, Nadia sat on the cabin's porch steps, watching Cody and Rex play in the clearing. Cody was still moving carefully, favoring his injured side, but Rex kept trying to coax him into roughhousing. The sight made Nadia smile despite herself. They were so normal, so innocent. You're good with them. Nadia jerked around, her hand instinctively reaching for the knife at her belt. Gabriel stood at the edge of the tree line, appearing as silently as smoke. He was wearing dark jeans and a fitted black shirt that emphasized his intimidating frame. His golden eyes tracked the pups with an intensity that made Nadia's pulse quicken. "How long have you been watching?" she asked, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Long enough." Gabriel stepped into the clearing, and immediately both pups perked up. Rex let out an excited yip and bounded toward him, while Cody followed, more slowly. Gabriel knelt down, and the transformation in his demeanor was startling. The cold, calculating alpha disappeared, replaced by something softer, more human. He scooped up both pups, holding them close as they nuzzled his neck and whined happily. "Hey, little warriors," he murmured, his voice low and gentle. "You're getting stronger. Good." Nadia watched the interaction with a strange tightness in her chest. This was the uncle, not the alpha. The man who'd lost his brother and was trying desperately to keep his brother's children safe. "They miss you," Nadia said quietly. "Every time they hear something in the forest, they perk up, hoping it's you." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "I can't be here as often as I'd like. The pack is restless. They know the pups are alive, but they don't know where. Some of them think I've hidden them away to keep them safe from rogues. Others think," he trailed off. "Others think what?" Gabriel looked up at her and there was something dark in his eyes. "Others think I've gone soft, that I'm compromising pack security for sentiment. Are you?" "Yes." The admission was blunt, almost angry. "My brother died 4 days ago. His mate died beside him. I should be focused on hunting down the rogues who attacked us, on securing our borders, on maintaining order. Instead, I'm standing in a human's cabin, watching my nephews play, and wondering if I'm making the worst mistake of my life." Nadia stood up and walked down the steps, stopping a few feet from Gabriel. "They need you," she said. "Not the alpha. You, their uncle, the only family they have left. They have the pack. The pack isn't you." Nadia gestured to the pups, who were now climbing all over Gabriel like he was a jungle gym. "Look at them. They know you. They love you. Whatever else you are, whatever you've done, you're the person they trust most in this world." Gabriel's expression cracked, just for a moment. Grief and guilt and something raw and painful flashed across his face. "I failed them," he said hoarsely. "I promised Tyler I'd protect his family and I let him die." "You didn't let him die," Nadia said firmly. "He made a choice to protect the pack. That's not your fault, isn't it?" Gabriel's eyes blazed gold. "I'm the alpha. Everything that happens to my pack is my responsibility. Every death, every injury, he stopped, his throat working. Tyler was my little brother. I was supposed to keep him safe." Nadia took a risk. She stepped closer, close, enough that she could feel the heat radiating from Gabriel's skin. "You can't protect everyone all the time. You're not invincible even if you pretend to be." Gabriel stared at her, something dangerous and vulnerable warring in his expression. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Nadia met his gaze steadily. "I lost my father because you decided he was a threat. I've spent 2 years grieving him, blaming myself for not seeing the signs, for not saving him somehow. I know what guilt feels like, Gabriel. I know what it's like to carry the weight of someone's death and wonder if you could have stopped it." Gabriel's jaw clenched. "Your father's death was necessary. Was it?" Nadia's voice sharpened. "Or was it just easier than trusting him? Easier than taking the risk that he might have understood, might have kept your secret, might have helped you?" "I couldn't take that risk." "No," Nadia agreed. "You couldn't because you're an alpha, and alphas don't take risks with their pack's safety. They make the hard choices. They sacrifice individuals for the collective." "I understand that." She paused, But that doesn't mean those choices don't cost you. Gabriel looked away, his grip on the pups tightening slightly. Cody whined softly, and Gabriel immediately loosened his hold, stroking the pup's head in apology. "Why are you doing this?" Gabriel asked quietly. "Why are you helping me? You should hate me." "I do hate you," Nadia said honestly. "Part of me will always hate you for what you took from me, but I also understand that the world isn't as simple as I thought it was. You're not just a monster, and I'm not just a victim. We're both trying to survive in a world that doesn't have easy answers." Gabriel turned back to her, and the look in his eyes made Nadia's breath catch. "You're dangerous," he said softly. "Not because you're a threat to my pack, because you're a threat to me. What do you mean?" Gabriel set the pups down gently. They immediately ran to Nadia, climbing up her legs and demanding attention. She picked them up automatically, cradling them against her chest. "You make me want things I can't have," Gabriel said, his voice low and rough. "You make me question decisions I made years ago. You make me wonder if there's another way to lead, another way to protect my pack without." He gestured vaguely. "Without losing pieces of myself every time I give an order." Nadia's heart hammered against her ribs. "Gabriel, you should go back inside." Gabriel interrupted, his tone shifting back to the cold, controlled alpha. "It's not safe for you to be out in the open. Rogues patrol the borders, looking for weaknesses." "The pups need fresh air," Nadia protested. "Then take them out for an hour, no more, and stay close to the cabin." Gabriel pulled something from his pocket, a small, sleek phone. "Take this. It's programmed with my direct number. If anything happens, you call me immediately." Nadia took the phone, her fingers brushing against his. The contact sent a jolt of electricity up her arm, and from the way Gabriel's eyes flashed gold, she knew he'd felt it too. "What's happening between us?" she whispered. Gabriel stepped back, putting distance between them. "Nothing. Nothing is happening, and nothing will happen. You're under my protection because of the pups. That's all, is it?" Gabriel's expression shuddered completely. "It has to be. I'm an alpha. You're human. There's no future where we make sense." "Why not?" "Because humans are fragile," Gabriel said harshly. "You age, you die, you break so easily it's terrifying. And I can't. I won't let myself care about someone who could be taken from me so quickly." Nadia's eyes stung. "That's what this is about. You're afraid of losing people you care about, so you just don't care about anyone." "It's worked for 10 years, Gabriel said coldly. "Has it?" Nadia challenged. "Because from where I'm standing, you look miserable. You look like a man who's spent a decade building walls so high he's trapped himself inside them." Gabriel's hands clenched into fists. "You don't know anything about me. I know you come here every day to check on your nephews, even though it risks your authority with the pack. I know you left me detailed instructions on how to care for them, down to the exact temperature their formula should be. I know you blame yourself for your brother's death and you're terrified of failing these pups the same way." Nadia took a step toward him. "I know you're not the monster you pretend to be, Gabriel Houston, and that scares you more than any rogue attack ever could." Gabriel stared at her, his chest heaving, his eyes blazing gold. For a moment, Nadia thought he might actually lose control, might shift right there in the clearing. Instead, he turned and walked away. "I'll be back tomorrow," he said without looking at her. "Keep them safe." And then he was gone, disappearing into the forest like he'd never been there at all. Nadia stood in the clearing, holding the pups, her heart racing. What was she doing? Why was she pushing him? Why did it matter if Gabriel Houston's was more than the monster who'd killed her father? Because he was more, and that made everything infinitely more complicated. Rex whined and licked her face, pulling her from her thoughts. Nadia looked down at the pups and sighed. "Your uncle is impossible," she told them. "You know that, right?" Cody yipped in response, and Nadia couldn't help but smile. "Yeah," she murmured. "I thought so, too." That night, Nadia woke to the sound of howling. It was distant, haunting, a chorus of voices raised in mourning. The pups stirred on her chest, whimpering softly. Nadia stroked their heads, soothing them back to sleep, but her own heart raced. The pack was mourning Tyler and Alfreda. She could hear it in the howls, the grief, the rage, the desperate need for justice. And somewhere in that chorus, she knew Gabriel's voice was among them, leading his pack through their pain. Nadia slipped out of bed carefully, leaving the pups sleeping, and walked to the window. The forest was dark, the moon hidden behind clouds, but she could feel the weight of eyes on the cabin, watching, protecting. Gabriel's wolves. She pressed her hand against the glass, and for a moment, she let herself imagine what it would be like to be part of that world, to belong to a pack, to have people who would fight and die for you without question, to have someone like Gabriel look at her with something other than suspicion and grief. The howling slowly faded and the forest fell silent. Nadia returned to bed, curling around the pups, and closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she would ask Gabriel about the morning ritual. Tomorrow, she would try to understand this world she'd stumbled into. Tomorrow, she would figure out how to survive in a place where trust was a luxury and love was a death sentence. But tonight, she would simply hold these two orphan pups and pretend that she could keep them safe from the darkness closing in around them all. Chapter 5. The Alpha's Burden. Gabriel didn't return the next day or the day after that. By the 6th day, Nadia found herself checking the tree line obsessively, searching for any sign of movement. The pups sensed her anxiety. They became clingy, refusing to leave her side, whining whenever she stepped away from them. The only contact came in the form of supply deliveries. The same black wolf appeared each morning, leaving fresh food and medical supplies, then vanishing without a sound. Nadia tried to speak to it once, but the wolf simply stared at her with those unsettling amber eyes before turning away. She was alone, completely, utterly alone, except for two wolf pups who depended on her for everything. The isolation was suffocating. On the 7th day, Nadia's phone buzzed, the one Gabriel had given her. She grabbed it so fast, she nearly dropped it. A single text message: pack meeting tonight. Stay inside. Lock the doors. Don't go outside no matter what you hear. Gee, Nadia's stomach twisted. Don't go outside no matter what you hear. What was going to happen? She spent the day preparing. She brought extra wood inside for the fireplace, filled every container she had with water, and made sure all the windows were locked. The pups watched her with wide eyes, sensing something was wrong. It's okay, Nadia told them, though her voice shook. Everything's going to be okay. She didn't believe it. As darkness fell, Nadia built up the fire and settled on the couch with Cody and Rex. She tried to read one of her father's old journals, but the words blurred together. Her mind kept drifting to Gabriel, to the pack meeting, to what could possibly require her to lock herself inside. The howling started at midnight. It was different from the morning ritual, harsher, angrier, filled with a violence that made Nadia's skin crawl. She could hear snarls and growls underneath the howls, the sounds of wolves fighting. The pups began to whimper, pressing closer to Nadia. She wrapped her arms around them, her heart pounding, and then she heard it, a voice human but amplified somehow, carrying through the forest with unnatural clarity. Gabriel's voice, eyes. I am your alpha. The words rang out like thunder. I have led this pack for 10 years. I have protected you, fed you, given you territory and safety, and now you question my judgment. Another voice responded, equally powerful but laced with contempt. You've compromised us, Gabriel. You've placed human children, shifter children, in the hands of a human woman, the daughter of the man we killed for discovering our existence. Nadia's blood ran cold. Someone knew. The pack knew about her. Nadia Gates is under my protection, Gabriel snarled. Anyone who touches her answers to me. And what happens when she betrays us? The other voice demanded. What happens when she decides to finish her father's work? When she publishes photographs, DNA evidence, proof that we exist? She won't. How can you be sure? Because I've given her something more valuable than scientific discovery, Gabriel said. And even through the distance, Nadia could hear the edge in his voice. I've given her a purpose. She's caring for Tyler's sons, for Pack children. She understands what that means. She understands nothing. The dissenting voice was louder now, closer. She's human, Gabriel. She'll never be one of us. And by protecting her, you're spitting on Tyler's memory. You're dishonoring everything he died for. The growling intensified, and Nadia heard the unmistakable sound of bodies colliding, of teeth snapping. They were fighting. The pack was fighting. Stop. Gabriel's command cracked through the air like a whip. The sounds of struggle ceased immediately. I am alpha of this pack, and my word is law. If anyone here wants to challenge that, step forward now. Silence. That's what I thought, Gabriel continued. His voice was deadly quiet now. The pups are with Nadia, because they're safe there, because she saved them when we failed to protect them, because she's shown them more kindness in a week than some of you have shown each other in years. You're going soft, the dissenting voice said, but quieter now, uncertain. The old Gabriel, the one who killed the conservationist without hesitation, would never have allowed this. The old Gabriel made a lot of mistakes, Gabriel said. And one of them was thinking that killing was always the answer. James Gates was documenting our existence, yes, but he was also trying to protect us. He believed we were endangered, worth preserving, and we killed him for it. A pause. We killed a man who might have been an ally because we were too afraid to take the risk. I won't make that mistake again. So, you'll risk the entire pack for one human woman. I'll risk the entire pack for the right human, Gabriel corrected. And Nadia Gates has proven herself worthy of that risk. She's kept the pups safe, asked for nothing in return, and hasn't told a single soul about our existence despite having every reason to expose us. She will, the voice insisted. Eventually, she'll. Enough, Rodolfo. Gabriel's tone shifted, became harder. You're my beta, my second. I trust you with my life. But if you can't trust my judgment on this, then maybe it's time for you to step down. The silence that followed was absolute. Nadia held her breath, waiting. Rodolfo. That was the name of Gabriel's second in command, the one who'd wanted to kill her the first night. I won't challenge you, Rodolfo said finally. But I won't pretend to support this decision either. You're playing with fire, Gabriel, and when it burns us all, I'll be there to say I told you so. Noted, Gabriel said dryly. Anyone else have concerns they'd like to voice? No one spoke. Good. Now, get out of here, all of you. I need to think. The sounds of the pack dispersing echoed through the forest, footsteps, rustling leaves, the occasional growl of discontent, but eventually, the woods fell silent. Nadia waited, her muscles tense, the pups trembling in her arms. A knock on the door made her jump. It's me, Gabriel's voice called out. Let me in. Nadia hesitated, then carefully set the pups on the couch and walked to the door. She unlocked it slowly, her hand shaking. Gabriel stood on the porch, and Nadia's breath caught. He looked wrecked. His shirt was torn, blood streaking across his chest and arms. His face was bruised, one eye swelling shut. His knuckles were split and bleeding. Oh my God, Nadia breathed. What happened? Pack discipline. Gabriel said flatly. Can I come in? Nadia stepped aside and Gabriel walked into the cabin, moving stiffly. He collapsed onto the couch, careful not to disturb the pups. Cody and Rex immediately crawled to him, whining and licking his face. I'm okay, little warriors. Gabriel murmured, stroking their heads. Uncle's fine. But he wasn't fine. Nadia could see that clearly. Let me get the first aid kit, she said, already moving toward the bathroom. I'll heal. Gabriel protested. Shifters heal fast, not fast enough, Nadia said firmly. She returned with antiseptic bandages and clean cloths. Shirt off. Gabriel raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? Your shirt, off, now. Nadia's tone left no room for argument. I need to see how bad the damage is. Gabriel sighed but complied, pulling the tattered shirt over his head and tossing it aside. Nadia froze. His chest was a map of scars, some old and faded, others recent and still healing. Claw marks, bite wounds, what looked like bullet scars, evidence of a lifetime of violence. Jesus, Nadia whispered. Comes with the territory, Gabriel said, watching her reaction carefully. Being alpha means being the first into fight and the last to retreat. My body is a testament to every battle I've won. And the ones you've lost? Gabriel's expression darkened. Those scars are internal. Nadia wet a cloth and began cleaning the blood from his chest, working carefully around the fresh wounds. Gabriel hissed when she touched a particularly deep gash across his ribs. Sorry, Nadia murmured. It's fine, just be quick. Nadia worked in silence, her fingers gentle but efficient. She could feel Gabriel's eyes on her, tracking her every movement. You defended me tonight, she said quietly. Against your own pack. I defended my decision, Gabriel corrected. There's a difference, is there? Nadia looked up at him. Rodolfo said you were going soft, that you'd changed. Rodolfo says a lot of things. Is he right? Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. Maybe. I don't know anymore. He gestured to the pups who had fallen asleep, curled against his side. Tyler was always the soft one, the one who believed in second chances, in mercy, in finding another way. I was the hard one, the one who made the difficult decisions without hesitation. And now I look at these pups and I see my brother in them. I see the man who believed I could be better than the monster our father raised me to be. Gabriel's voice cracked. Tyler died believing I was worth saving. How can I honor that if I keep making the same brutal choices? Nadia's chest tightened. She set down the cloth and met Gabriel's gaze. You're not a monster. I've done monstrous things. So have a lot of people, Nadia said. That doesn't mean you can't change. That doesn't mean you're defined by your worst moments. Gabriel reached out and caught her wrist, his grip gentle but firm. You keep saying things like that. Why? Why do you keep trying to see good in me when you know what I am? What I've done? Nadia looked down at his hand on her wrist, at the way his thumb brushed against her pulse point. Because I see how you are with your nephews. Because I see the way you're trying to protect me, even though it's costing you everything. Because she hesitated, then forced herself to continue, because I think you're as trapped as I am, trapped by expectations, by grief, by the roles we're supposed to play. And maybe, just maybe, we can help each other break free. Gabriel's eyes blazed gold. Nadia, I'm not asking for anything. Nadia interrupted. I'm just saying you don't have to carry everything alone. You don't have to be the alpha every second of every day. Here in this cabin with me and the pups, you can just be Gabriel. Gabriel stared at her like she'd offered him something precious and impossible. Then slowly he pulled her closer until she was standing between his knees. You're dangerous, he said again, his voice rough. You make me want things I swore I'd never want. Things that could destroy everything I've built. Like what? Nadia's heart was racing, her skin burning where his hand still held her wrist. Gabriel's free hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. Like this, and then he kissed her. It was nothing like Nadia expected. It wasn't rough or demanding. It was soft, almost tentative, like Gabriel was terrified he'd break her. His lips moved against hers with a gentleness that made her knees weak. Nadia's hands came up to rest on his shoulders, feeling the warmth of his skin, the tension in his muscles. She kissed him back, pouring every complicated emotion she'd been feeling into that moment, grief and anger and fear, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. This is a mistake, he whispered. Probably. Nadia agreed. We can't do this. I know. I'm going to get you killed. Maybe. Gabriel laughed a broken sound. You're insane. So are you. He kissed her again, longer, this time deeper, and Nadia let herself sink into it, let herself forget for just a moment that they were standing on opposite sides of an impossible divide. When they finally pulled apart, the pups were awake, watching them with curious eyes. Gabriel smiled a real smile, soft and genuine. "Looks like we have an audience." Nadia blushed. "They won't tell anyone. Let's hope not." Gabriel stood wincing slightly. "I should go." "The pack will notice if I'm gone too long." "Will they challenge you again?" "Probably." Gabriel pulled his ruined shirt back on. "But I'll handle it. I always do." Nadia walked him to the door. Before he left, Gabriel turned back to her. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything. For the pups. For tonight." He gestured vaguely. "For seeing me." "Thank you for trusting me," Nadia replied. Gabriel's expression softened. Then he leaned down and pressed a kiss to her forehead, tender and protective, and full of promises neither of them could keep. "Lock the door behind me," he said. "And Nadia?" "Yes?" "If anyone from the pack comes here, anyone except me or the supply wolf, you run, you take the pups, and you run as fast as you can." "Understood?" Nadia's stomach dropped. "Gabriel, what?" "Promise me." "I promise." Gabriel nodded, then disappeared into the darkness. Nadia locked the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. What had she just done? What had they just done? The pups whined from the couch, and Nadia forced herself to move. She returned to them, curling up with their warm bodies pressed against her. "Your uncle is going to be the death of me," she whispered. Cody licked her hand, and Nadia smiled despite everything. Outside, hidden in the shadows, Gabriel watched the cabin for a long moment. His wolf was howling inside his mind, demanding he go back, claim her, protect her, but he couldn't. Not yet. Not while the pack was fractured and rebellious. Not while Rodolfo was watching his every move, waiting for him to make a mistake big enough to justify a challenge. Gabriel turned and ran into the forest, letting his wolf take over, letting the transformation consume him. He had work to do, enemies to hunt, a pack to control, and now impossibly a human woman to protect. A woman who might just be worth dying for. Chapter 6: Blood at the Door. The 8th day began with blood on the porch. Nadia woke to Cody's frantic barking, a sound she'd never heard from him before. She bolted upright, her heart hammering, and rushed to the window. A deer carcass lay on the porch, Step's throat torn out, blood still pooling on the wood and scratched into the door. In deep, deliberate gouges were 3 words: "Human, go home." Nadia's hands shook as she grabbed the phone Gabriel had given her. She dialed his number, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. He answered on the first ring. "What's wrong?" "Theirs." Nadia's voice cracked. "Someone left a dead deer on my porch. And a message. It says, 'Human, go home.'" The silence on the other end was terrifying. "Gabriel, lock the doors. Don't go outside. I'm coming." His voice was pure alpha command, cold and lethal. "And Nadia, if anyone approaches the cabin before I get there, you shift the pups into the bathroom, and you use that knife I know you keep under your pillow. Aim for the throat or the heart. Nothing else will stop a shifter." The line went dead. Nadia's entire body went cold. She scooped up both pups, Rex struggling and whining, Cody still barking, and carried them to the bathroom. She set them down gently, then grabbed her father's hunting knife from beneath her pillow. The blade was silver. Her father had insisted on silver for everything: knives, bullets, even the buckles on his boots. At the time, Nadia had thought it was paranoia. Now she understood. Her father had known exactly what lived in these mountains. She returned to the main room and positioned herself by the window, knife gripped tightly, watching the tree line. Minutes crawled by like hours. Then she saw movement. Not Gabriel. Someone else. A woman emerged from the forest, tall, muscular, with dark hair pulled back in a severe braid. Her eyes glowed amber in the early morning light. She walked toward the cabin with deliberate slowness, her gaze fixed on the door. Nadia's grip on the knife tightened. The woman stopped at the edge of the porch, tilting her head as she studied the bloody message carved into the door. Then she looked directly at the window where Nadia stood. I can smell your fear, human, the woman called out, her voice carrying easily. It's intoxicating, like honey and terror mixed together. Nadia didn't respond. Her father's journal had been clear: never show weakness to a predator. The woman smiled, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp. My name is Alyssa Cross. I was Tyler's friend, his packmate, and I want to know why his sons are sleeping under the same roof as the daughter of the man who tried to destroy us. I didn't try to destroy anyone, Nadia said, her voice steadier than she felt. I saved the pups. I brought them here when they were injured and alone. So noble, Alyssa said mockingly. The compassionate human saving poor helpless wolf pups. Tell me, Nadia Gates, did you know what they were when you found them? Or did you think you'd stumbled upon some rare species you could catalog and study, just like your father? I knew they needed help, Nadia said. That's all that mattered. Alyssa's smile vanished. Liar, you knew exactly what they were. You've been studying us for 2 years, setting up cameras, collecting samples, following the same obsessive path your father walked. You're just like him, playing the innocent scientist while documenting everything, waiting for the perfect moment to expose us. That's not true, isn't it? Alyssa took a step closer to the cabin. Gabriel thinks you're different. He thinks you can be trusted. But I know humans. I've watched them destroy everything they touch for centuries. You're all the same. Curious, ambitious, and ultimately selfish. Stay back, Nadia warned, raising the knife so Alyssa could see it through the window. Alyssa laughed. A knife? You think a little blade will stop me, human? I've been alive for 300 years. I've survived wars, plagues, and hunters far more skilled than you. You're nothing but. She stopped mid-sentence, her head snapping to the side. A growl rumbled deep in her chest. He's here, she whispered. Your precious alpha. Gabriel exploded from the tree line in full wolf form, a massive gray and black beast that dwarfed even the largest natural wolf. He was enormous, easily 500 pounds of pure muscle and fury. His eyes blazed gold as he placed himself between Alyssa and the cabin. The snarl that erupted from his throat was unlike anything Nadia had ever heard. It was rage given sound, a promise of violence so absolute that even through the cabin walls it made her knees weak. Alyssa shifted immediately, not to attack, but to submit. She dropped to all fours, her wolf form smaller, slimmer, her head lowered in deference, but Gabriel wasn't backing down. He advanced on her, teeth bared, and Nadia realized with horror that he was going to kill her. Gabriel, stop. Nadia threw open the cabin door, the knife still in her hand. Don't kill her. Gabriel's head whipped around, his golden eyes locking onto her. The fury in them was inhuman, feral, barely controlled. She's not worth it, Nadia said, forcing herself to stay calm. She's scared, and she's angry, and she loved Tyler. I understand that, but killing her won't bring him back. Alyssa shifted back to human form, naked and trembling. You should let him kill me, she said bitterly. Because I don't know how to live in a world where Tyler is dead, and his children are being raised by a human. Gabriel shifted too, his transformation swift and fluid. He stood before them fully human, completely naked, his body still radiating barely contained violence. Get dressed, he snarled at Alyssa, and get off this property before I change my mind about letting you live. Alyssa's clothes, a pile of fabric near the tree line, flew toward her and she dressed quickly. But before she left, she looked at Nadia with something that might have been desperation. He was my best friend, Alyssa whispered. Tyler was. He was the only person in the pack who treated me like I mattered. And now he's gone, and you're here and I don't know how to. Her voice broke. Nadia felt her anger soften. This woman wasn't a monster. She was grieving. I'm sorry, Nadia said quietly. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry that I can't bring him back. But his sons are safe here, Alyssa. I promise you that. I won't let anything happen to them. Alyssa stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded once and disappeared into the forest. Gabriel stood motionless, his chest heaving, his hands clenched into fists. Nadia could see the effort it took for him to maintain control, to not chase after Alyssa and finish what he'd started. "Gabriel," Nadia said softly, "come inside. He didn't move. Please." Finally, slowly, Gabriel turned to face her. The look in his eyes made Nadia's breath catch. It was pain and rage and exhaustion all tangled together. "You shouldn't have stopped me," he said hoarsely. "She threatened you. She came here to scare you, possibly to hurt you. That's unforgivable. She came here because she's hurting," Nadia countered. "And she doesn't know how to process that grief. Killing her wouldn't have solved anything." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "You don't understand pack law. She challenged my authority by approaching you without permission. The punishment for that is death. Then your pack law is barbaric." The words hung in the air. Between them, sharp and unforgiving. Gabriel's eyes flashed gold. "Careful, Nadia." "Why?" "Because I'm supposed to pretend that your way of doing things is reasonable, that killing someone for being hurt and angry makes sense?" Nadia shook her head. "I won't do that. I can't." "Then you don't belong in this world," Gabriel said coldly. The words hit Nadia like a physical blow. She stepped back, her hand tightening on the knife, still clutched in her grip. "Maybe I don't," she said quietly. "Maybe I'm too human, too soft, too weak to survive in a world where grief is answered with violence. But those pups in there," she pointed toward the cabin, "they're not going to grow up thinking that death is the only solution to every problem. Not if I have anything to say about it." Gabriel stared at her, something unreadable flickering across his face. Then he turned and walked toward the forest. "Where are you going?" Nadia called after him. "To deal with the pack." Gabriel said without turning around, "Alyssa won't be the last one to test you. I need to make it clear that anyone who comes near this cabin dies. No exceptions." "Gabriel, I can't be what you want me to be, Nadia." Gabriel spun around, and for the first time, Nadia saw the full weight of everything he carried. "I can't be soft. I can't show mercy. I can't let my pack think for even a second that I'm weak, because the moment I do, they'll tear me apart and replace me with someone worse, someone who will kill you without hesitation. So you'll kill for me instead?" Nadia's voice shook. "You'll become a monster to protect me from other monsters. If that's what it takes. And what happens when you've killed everyone who disagrees with you? When the only people left are the ones too terrified to speak? Is that the pack Tyler wanted his sons to grow up in?" Gabriel flinched like she'd struck him. Tyler believed in you," Nadia continued, her voice softer now. "He believed you could be better, but you're so busy trying to control everything through fear that you can't see there might be another way." "There is no other way," Gabriel said, but there was doubt in his voice now. "Yes, there is." Nadia walked down the porch steps, closing the distance between them. She stopped just out of reach. The knife lowered but not sheathed. "You show them strength without cruelty. You lead without terrorizing. You prove that mercy isn't weakness. It's the hardest choice of all." Gabriel's expression cracked. "And if I fail? If the pack revolts? If someone challenges me and wins? Then you'll know you tried." Nadia said simply, "You'll know you honored Tyler's memory by trying to be the alpha he believed you could be." Gabriel closed his eyes, his whole body trembling with the effort of holding himself together. When he opened them again, the gold had faded, replaced by something achingly human. "I don't know how to be that person," he admitted. "I don't know how to lead without fear, then learn." Nadia reached out and took his hand, feeling the calluses, the scars, the evidence of a lifetime of violence. "Learn with me. Learn with the pups. Learn with your pack. You don't have to do it alone, Gabriel. You've never had to do it alone." Gabriel stared at their joined hands, then looked up at her face. "Why do you believe in me? After everything I've done, everything I am, why do you still think I'm worth saving?" "Because someone has to," Nadia said. "And maybe I see in you what Tyler saw. Someone capable of more than just survival. Someone capable of actually living. Gabriel pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her so tightly she could barely breathe. He buried his face in her hair, and Nadia felt him shaking. "I'm so tired," he whispered. "I'm so tired of fighting, of killing, of being alone." "Then stop," Nadia murmured, her arms coming up to hold him. "Stop fighting alone. Let me help you. Let the pack help you. Let someone help you before you break." They stood like that for a long time. Two broken people holding each other up in the ruins of everything they'd lost. Finally, Gabriel pulled back. His eyes were red-rimmed, but clearer than Nadia had ever seen them. "I need to address the pack," he said. "I need to make some changes. And he hesitated. "I need you to come with me." Nadia's eyes widened. "What?" "The pack needs to meet you. They need to see that you're not a threat. That you're," Gabriel's voice softened, "that you're important to the pups, to me." "Gabriel, they'll kill me. Not if I'm standing beside you," Gabriel said firmly. "Not if I make it clear that you're under my protection. Not as a prisoner, but as someone I've chosen to trust." "That's insane." "Probably." Gabriel smiled, a small tentative thing. "But you said I should try another way. So I'm trying. Will you come?" Nadia looked back at the cabin, at the pups watching from the window with curious eyes. Then she looked at Gabriel, at this impossible, complicated, terrifying man who was somehow becoming the most important person in her world. "Okay," she said. "I'll come, but if they kill me, I'm haunting you forever." Gabriel laughed, a real laugh that transformed his entire face. "Deal." He reached for her hand and Nadia took it. Together they walked toward the forest, toward the pack, toward a future neither of them could predict. And behind them, in the cabin, two wolf pups watched their uncle and their guardian disappear into the trees, unaware that everything was about to change. Chapter 7. Before the pack. The pack's gathering place was a clearing deep in the heart of their territory, a space carved out over centuries, surrounded by ancient trees that stood like silent sentinels. As Gabriel led Nadia through the forest, she could feel eyes watching from every shadow, tracking their movement with predatory focus. Gabriel hadn't let go of her hand. His grip was firm, protective, and Nadia drew strength from it even as her heart threatened to beat out of her chest. "They won't attack," Gabriel said quietly, sensing her fear. "Not while you're with me." "What about when I'm not with you?" Gabriel's jaw tightened. "That's what this gathering is for, to establish that you're not prey. You're pack adjacent." "Pack adjacent?" Nadia's voice pitched higher. "That's not a real thing. It is now." They emerged into the clearing, and Nadia's breath caught. At least 40 wolves surrounded them, some in human form, others as wolves, all watching with glowing eyes. The tension in the air was suffocating, a living thing that pressed against Nadia's chest and made it hard to breathe. At the center of the clearing stood Rodolfo, his expression dark and unreadable. Beside him was Alyssa, her head bowed in submission, and scattered throughout the crowd were faces Nadia didn't recognize, young and old, male and female, all united in their suspicion and hostility. Gabriel stepped forward, pulling Nadia with him until they stood at the center of the clearing. He raised his free hand, and immediately the murmuring stopped. Every eye fixed on their alpha. "I've called you here because there's been confusion," Gabriel said, his voice carrying easily through the space. "Confusion about my decisions, confusion about the human in our territory, confusion about whether I'm still fit to lead." Several wolves shifted uncomfortably. Rodolfo's expression didn't change. "So let me be clear," Gabriel continued. "I am your alpha. I have led this pack through wars, famines, and human expansion. I have kept you safe, kept you hidden, kept you alive, and I don't intend to stop now." "Then why is she here?" Alyssa spoke up, her voice trembling but defiant. "Why is the daughter of our enemy standing in our sacred space?" Gabriel's eyes flashed gold. "Because she saved Tyler's sons. Because when my brother died and I failed to protect his children, Nadia found them injured and alone. She didn't run. She didn't call authorities. She brought them to safety, treated their wounds, and kept them alive. For what purpose? Rodolfo stepped forward, his voice sharp. What does she gain from this, Gabriel? Humans don't do anything without expecting something in return. I don't want anything, Nadia said before Gabriel could respond. Her voice shook, but she forced herself to meet Rodolfo's gaze. I found 2 babies who needed help, that's all. You expect us to believe that? Rodolfo's laugh was harsh. Your father spent years trying to prove we existed. He took photographs, collected samples, documented our movements, and when he got too close, we eliminated him. Now here you are, following in his footsteps, and we're supposed to believe you have no agenda? My father believed you were worth protecting, Nadia said, anger giving her courage. He thought you were endangered, valuable, important. Yes, he documented you, but he never published his findings. He never told anyone. Do you know why? The crowd was silent. Because he loved these mountains, Nadia continued. He loved the wilderness, the mystery, the magic of knowing something extraordinary existed just beyond human understanding. Publishing his research would have destroyed that, would have brought hunters and scientists and curiosity seekers. So he kept your secret, and you killed him for it. He was a threat, Rodolfo said coldly. He was your ally, Nadia shot back, and you were too afraid to see it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Several wolves exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering across their faces. Gabriel squeezed Nadia's hand, a warning to tread carefully. But she couldn't stop now, not when she finally had their attention. I'm not asking to join your pack, Nadia said. I'm not asking for acceptance or friendship or anything beyond this. Let me care for those pups until they're strong enough to come home. Let me honor my father's memory by protecting what he died trying to preserve. And when it's done, I'll walk away. You'll never see me again. And we're supposed to trust that? Alyssa's voice was bitter. We're supposed to believe you'll just leave? Yes, why should we? Nadia met Alyssa's eyes. Because I know what it's like to lose someone you love. I know what it's like to have that grief consume you, to make you angry and desperate and willing to lash out at anyone who reminds you of what you've lost. She paused. You loved Tyler. I understand that, but killing me won't bring him back, and it won't protect his sons. All it will do is prove that your pack is exactly what my father feared, beautiful, powerful, and doomed. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, slowly, a figure stepped forward from the crowd. It was an older woman, her hair silver white, her face lined with age. She moved with the grace of someone who'd lived centuries, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of authority. I am Anne Figueroa, she said, elder of this pack. I've served under 5 alphas, including Gabriel. She turned to face him. You've led us well, Gabriel Houston. You've kept us safe, kept us strong, but you've also led with fear, with iron control that leaves no room for dissent, no space for mercy. Gabriel's expression went carefully blank. Are you challenging me, Anne? No. Anne's smile was sad. I'm asking you to remember what Tyler believed. That strength isn't just about dominance. It's about knowing when to bend before you break. She turned to Nadia. This human has shown courage today. She stood before 40 predators and spoke in truth that none of us wanted to hear. That takes strength. That takes character. Anne looked back at Gabriel. If you believe she can be trusted, then I support your decision. Another figure stepped forward, a young man with bright red hair and freckles. I'm Freddie Garza. I grew up with Tyler. He was my best friend. His voice cracked. And if Tyler were here, he'd tell us to give her a chance. He always believed in second chances, in seeing the good in people. One by one, others began to step forward. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to show that Gabriel wasn't standing alone. But Rodolfo remained where he was, his expression dark. And behind him, a group of younger wolves, maybe 10 or 12, stood with arms crossed, clearly unconvinced. "This is a mistake," Rodolfo said quietly. "You're letting sentiment cloud your judgment, Gabriel. Tyler's death has made you soft." Gabriel's eyes blazed gold. "Say that again. You're soft." Rodolfo emphasized each word. The old Gabriel, the one who protected this pack for a decade, would never have allowed a human this deep into our world. "You've changed, and not for the better." "You're right," Gabriel said, and shock rippled through the crowd. "I have changed. Tyler's death showed me that ruling through fear has limits, that there are things worth more than absolute control." He looked at Nadia. "She's one of them." Rodolfo's expression hardened. "Then you leave me no choice. I formally challenge your leadership. I invoke the right of alpha challenge." The crowd erupted in gasps and shouts. Anne's face went pale. Freddie swore under his breath. "And Gabriel?" Gabriel simply smiled. "Finally," he said softly. "I've been waiting for you to grow a spine, Rodolfo." Nadia's blood ran cold. "Gabriel, what?" "It's pack law," Gabriel said, not taking his eyes off Rodolfo. "When an alpha's decisions are questioned, a beta can challenge for leadership. It's a fight to the death or submission." His smile turned predatory. "I accept your challenge." "Gabriel, no." Nadia grabbed his arm, but he gently removed her hand. "This has been coming for a long time," Gabriel said quietly. "Rodolfo has disagreed with almost every decision I've made since Tyler died. It's time to settle this." "By killing each other?" "By establishing dominance," Gabriel corrected. "If I win, my authority is absolute. No one questions my decisions again." "If I lose," he shrugged, "then Rodolfo becomes alpha and you run. You take the pups and you run as far and fast as you can. I'm not leaving you." Gabriel's expression softened. He cupped her face with one hand, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. "You don't have a choice. If I fall, Rodolfo will kill you and the pups. He'll erase every trace of Tyler's bloodline and rule through absolute terror. That's who he is." "Then don't fall," Nadia whispered. Gabriel pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I don't intend to." He stepped away from her, moving to the center of the clearing. Rodolfo joined him, the two men circling each other like predators sizing up their prey. Anne moved to Nadia's side, her hand on Nadia's shoulder. "Don't interfere," she warned quietly. "No matter what you see, no matter how bad it gets, you cannot interfere. If you do, Gabriel will be disqualified and killed immediately." "This is insane," Nadia breathed. "This is pack law," Anne said grimly. "And it's kept us alive for millennia." Gabriel began to shift, his body contorting, bones cracking and reforming. Within seconds, the massive gray and black wolf stood where the man had been. His eyes blazed gold, fixed on Rodolfo with lethal focus. Rodolfo shifted, too. His wolf form was slightly smaller than Gabriel's, but faster, leaner, built for speed rather than raw power. They charged at each other, and Nadia's world exploded into violence. The two wolves collided with a force that shook the ground. Teeth flashed, claws raked, blood sprayed. They were moving so fast Nadia could barely track them, a blur of fur and fury and primal savagery. Rodolfo went for Gabriel's throat, but Gabriel twisted, catching Rodolfo's shoulder in his jaws and crushing down. Bone cracked. Rodolfo howled and pulled free, leaving strips of flesh in Gabriel's mouth. The fight was brutal, vicious, and absolutely merciless. There were no rules, no pause, no moment of respite, just two apex predators trying to kill each other with everything they had. Nadia couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She could only watch in horror as Gabriel, her Gabriel, became something else, something wild and terrible and beautiful in its savagery. Rodolfo was good, fast. He landed blow after blow, opening gashes across Gabriel's ribs, his shoulders, his face. But Gabriel was stronger. Each time Rodolfo scored a hit, Gabriel answered with something worse, a bite that tore muscle, a slash that opened veins. The clearing fell silent except for the sounds of the fight, snarls, growls, the wet sound of flesh tearing. And then Gabriel made his move. He feinted left, and when Rodolfo followed, Gabriel spun and clamped his jaws around Rodolfo's throat. Not to kill, not yet, but to hold, to demonstrate dominance. Rodolfo struggled, his claws raking Gabriel's sides desperately. But Gabriel's grip didn't loosen, didn't waver. Slowly, Rodolfo's weakened, his body went slack, submissive. Gabriel held him there for another 10 seconds, long enough to make his point clear, then released him. Rodolfo collapsed to the ground, gasping, blood pooling beneath him. He shifted back to human form, naked and broken. Gabriel shifted too, standing over his beta with blood dripping from his wounds. "Submit," he commanded, his voice alpha power incarnate. "I submit," Rodolfo gasped. "You are alpha. Your word is law." Gabriel stared down at him for a long moment, then he offered his hand. Rodolfo stared at the outstretched hand in shock. "What? Take it," Gabriel said. "You fought with honor. You challenged because you believed it was right. That takes courage. Now take my hand, heal your wounds, and serve as my beta, because I need someone who's not afraid to tell me when I'm wrong." Tears welled in Rodolfo's eyes. Slowly, he reached up and grasped Gabriel's hand. Gabriel pulled him to his feet, then turned to face the pack. "Is there anyone else who questions my authority? Anyone else who thinks I'm unfit to lead?" Silence. "Then hear me now," Gabriel said, his voice carrying to every corner of the clearing. "Nadia Gates is under my protection. She is pack adjacent, and anyone who harms her answers to me. She will care for Tyler's sons until they're ready to join us. And when that time comes, we will honor her service, not with death, not with exile, but with gratitude." He paused. "That is my command as your alpha. Does anyone challenge it?" No one spoke. Gabriel's gaze swept across the crowd, then landed on Nadia. The fury in his eyes softened to something else, something that made Nadia's breath catch. "She is mine," Gabriel said simply, "and I am hers. That is the bond I choose, the future I claim." His eyes blazed gold. "Does anyone deny me this?" The weight of those words crashed over Nadia like a tidal wave. Mine. Hers bond. He wasn't just protecting her, he was claiming her, in front of his entire pack. Anne gasped softly beside her. "Gabriel, do you understand what you're saying?" "I understand perfectly," Gabriel said, never breaking eye contact, with Nadia. "I'm saying that Nadia de Gates is my mate, my chosen, and anyone who touches her dies." The clearing erupted into chaos. Chapter 8, marked by the moon. Nadia couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what had just happened. Mate. Chosen. Mine. The words echoed in her mind, drowning out the chaos erupting around her. Wolves were shouting, arguing, some in support, others in outrage. But all Nadia could see was Gabriel, standing bloodied and magnificent in the center of the clearing, his golden eyes locked on hers with an intensity that burned. Anne's hand tightened on Nadia's shoulder. "You need to respond," she whispered urgently. "If you don't accept his claim, he'll be humiliated before the entire pack. His authority will be compromised." "Accept?" Nadia's voice came out strangled. What am I supposed to?" "Walk to him," Anne said. "Stand beside him. That's all you need to do. The rest will follow." Nadia's legs felt like lead. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to reject this impossible situation. She was human. He was a shifter, an alpha, a man who'd killed her father, but he was also the man who defended her before his pack, who'd fought for the right to protect her, who'd looked at her like she was worth dying for. Slowly, Nadia stepped forward. The crowd parted before her, wolves moving aside to create a clear path. Some watched with curiosity, others with hostility, but all of them watched, waiting to see what the human would do. Nadia walked through them all, her chin raised, her heart hammering against her ribs. When she reached Gabriel, he was still bleeding from a dozen wounds, his chest heaving, his entire body vibrating with barely controlled energy. "You didn't have to do this," Nadia said quietly for his ears alone. "Yes, I did," Gabriel replied. His hand came up to cup her face, heedless of the blood covering his skin. "I'm done pretending that what I feel for you is temporary, done telling myself I can walk away when this is over. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. You've gotten under my skin, Nadia Gates, into my head, into my... He stopped, his jaw tightening. Heart, Nadia finished softly. Gabriel's expression cracked. I'm trying not to use that word. It makes me weak. It makes you human. I'm not human. No, Nadia agreed, reaching up to cover his hand with hers. But you're not just a monster either. You're something in between. Something complicated and terrifying and, she swallowed hard, something I can't walk away from either. Gabriel's eyes blazed brighter. Are you accepting my claim? I don't even know what that means. It means you're mine, Gabriel said roughly. It means I protect you, provide for you, kill anyone who threatens you. It means when I look at you, my wolf recognizes you as ours. It means he stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. It means I'm choosing you over pack law, over tradition, over everything I've been taught about keeping humans at a distance. Why? Nadia whispered. Why me? Because you see me, Gabriel said simply. Not the alpha, not the killer, not the monster. You see Gabriel, the man who's tired of being alone, the man who wants to be better than his father, better than his past. The man who looks at you and thinks maybe there's still hope for something good in this brutal world. Tears burned Nadia's eyes. This is insane. Completely. Your pack will never fully accept me. Some won't, Gabriel agreed. But enough will. And the ones who don't will learn to keep their mouths shut or find a new pack. You'd exile your own people for me? Gabriel's expression hardened. I'd do far worse than that. Nadia believed him. She could see it in his eyes, the absolute certainty that he would burn down everything he'd built if it meant keeping her safe. It should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel something she hadn't felt in years, wanted. Not as a disappointment, not as the plain daughter, not as the girl who'd never measure up to perfect Sophie, as herself. Just Nadia, broken and brave and worthy of being chosen. Okay, she said. Gabriel froze. Okay, I accept your claim. Nadia's voice grew stronger. I'm yours, you're mine, whatever that means, whatever it costs. I'm choosing this, I'm choosing you. The relief that flooded Gabriel's face was almost painful to witness. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair, his arms wrapping around her so tightly she could barely breathe. Thank you, he whispered against her skin. Thank you. Behind them, the pack erupted again, but this time the tone was different. There was still dissent, still uncertainty, but there was also something else. Acceptance. Or at least resignation. Rodolfo stepped forward, still naked, still bleeding, but his expression was carefully neutral. As beta of this pack, I acknowledge Gabriel Houston's claim on Nadia Gates. She is now pack adjacent, under alpha protection, and anyone who harms her will answer to both the alpha and to me. It was a formal declaration, and the weight of it rippled through the crowd. Several wolves bowed their heads in acknowledgement. Others simply turned and walked away, unable or unwilling to accept this new reality. But enough stayed, enough to matter. Anne approached, her expression unreadable. You've just changed the course of pack history, she said to Gabriel. You know that, right? Taking a human mate violates centuries of tradition. Then maybe it's time for new traditions, Gabriel said, still holding Nadia close. Anne's lips quirked into a small smile. Tyler would be proud of you. Gabriel's grip on Nadia tightened. I hope so. Alyssa was the last to approach. She looked between Gabriel and Nadia, her expression complicated grief and anger, and something that might have been understanding all tangled together. I still don't like this, she said bluntly. I still think it's dangerous. But she took a shaky breath. Tyler would have wanted his sons raised by someone who loved them, someone who'd fight for them. And you've done that. She looked at Nadia. You've kept them safe when we couldn't. I may not trust you, but I respect that. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't friendship, but it was a start. Thank you, Nadia said quietly. Alyssa nodded once, then shifted into wolf form and disappeared into the forest. Gradually, the crowd dispersed. Some wolves stayed to offer congratulations or words of support. Others left in silence, their disapproval clear. But within 20 minutes, only a handful remained. Anne, Rodolfo, Freddie, and a few others Nadia didn't know. "We should get you back to the cabin," Anne said to Nadia. "The claiming ceremony will need to happen soon, within the next few days, but for now, you need rest." "Claiming ceremony?" Nadia looked at Gabriel in alarm. Gabriel winced. "It's complicated. I'll explain later." "It's a ritual," Anne supplied helpfully, "where the alpha formally binds himself to his mate before the pack. There's blood involved, and marking, and in Gabriel growled, not helping. Anne's smile was wicked, just preparing her, alpha. Nadia's head spun. Blood? Marking? What had she just agreed to? Gabriel seemed to sense her panic. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said gently. "Right now, let's just get you home." Home. The cabin had become home without Nadia even realizing it. A place that should have been temporary, isolated, lonely, but instead had become a sanctuary. Gabriel shifted into wolf form and knelt down, indicating Nadia should climb on his back. "You want me to ride you?" Nadia's voice pitched high. Several wolves chuckled. Even Rodolfo cracked a smile. "It's the fastest way back." Gabriel's voice echoed in her mind, and Nadia jumped. "And yes, I can speak telepathically in wolf form. Get used to it." Nadia climbed onto his back carefully, gripping his fur. The moment she settled, Gabriel took off running, and Nadia had to bite back a scream. He was fast, impossibly fast. The forest blurred around them as Gabriel navigated the terrain with perfect precision. Wind whipped through Nadia's hair. And despite everything, despite the insanity of the last few hours, she felt a wild laugh building in her chest. This was freedom, pure, exhilarating, terrifying freedom. They reached the cabin in minutes. Gabriel shifted back to human form, catching Nadia as she slid off his back. "You're smiling," he observed. That was Nadia searched for words. That was amazing. Gabriel's expression softened. "Wait until I teach you to hunt." "I'm human. I can't hunt like you do." "No," Gabriel agreed. "But you can learn to move through the forest like we do, silent, swift, deadly when necessary." His eyes gleamed. "I'll teach you everything." They walked into the cabin together, and immediately Cody and Rex launched themselves at Gabriel, yipping excitedly. He caught them both, laughing as they climbed all over him. "Hey, little warriors. Miss me?" The pups licked his face enthusiastically, and Nadia felt her heart clench. This was what family looked like. Not perfect Sophie and cold Carol, but this messy, chaotic, unconventional, and absolutely real. Gabriel set the pups down and turned to Nadia. "I need to clean up. These wounds will heal, but the blood needs to be washed off." "I'll help," Nadia said. Gabriel's eyes darkened. "Nadia, you helped me care for the pups. Let me help you." She gestured to the bathroom. "Come on." Gabriel followed her, and Nadia started the shower, adjusting the temperature. When she turned back, Gabriel was watching her with an intensity that made her skin flush. "What?" "I'm trying to figure out how I got this lucky," Gabriel said quietly. "How I went from being alone for a decade to having you, having this." "You fought for it," Nadia said. "You risked everything. It was worth it." Gabriel stepped closer, his hand coming up to tilt her chin. "You're worth it." He kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promise. Nadia kissed him back, her hands sliding up his chest, careful of his wounds. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. "The claiming ceremony," he said. "It's going to hurt. The marking process is intense. Are you sure you're ready for this?" "No," Nadia said honestly. "But I'm choosing it anyway. I'm choosing you anyway." Gabriel's smile was brilliant and heartbreaking. "Then we'll face it together." He stepped into the shower, and Nadia helped him clean the blood from his wounds, her touch gentle, reverent. And as she traced the scars and fresh injuries covering his body, she understood something fundamental. Love in this world, in Gabriel's world, wasn't gentle. It wasn't soft. It was blood and sacrifice. and choosing someone even when that choice might destroy you. And Nadia was choosing it, choosing him, choosing this life. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Outside, hidden in the darkness, Rodolfo watched the cabin. His wounds were healing slowly, painfully, but he barely noticed. Gabriel had won, had claimed the human, had changed everything. And Rodolfo didn't know if that made his alpha brilliant or suicidal. He turned and melted into the forest, heading back to report to the pack. There was much to prepare, a claiming ceremony to arrange, protocols to establish, a new hierarchy to navigate. The pack was changing. Whether that change would save them or doom them remained to be seen. But one thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same again. In the cabin, Nadia and Gabriel fell asleep curled together on the couch, the pups nestled between them. For the first time in years, Gabriel's face was peaceful. The constant tension, the eternal vigilance, the crushing weight of leadership, all of it faded in sleep. And Nadia, watching him in the firelight, understood that she'd been given something precious, something rare, a monster who'd chosen to be human for her, an alpha who'd chosen to be vulnerable, a man who'd given her the one thing she'd always craved, a place to belong. She closed her eyes and let sleep claim her. Gabriel's heartbeat steady beneath her ear, the pups warm against her chest. Tomorrow there would be ceremonies and protocols and a future to navigate. But tonight there was just this, a family forged in blood and choice, and something that felt dangerously like hope. Chapter 9. Brothers in Blood. 3 days passed in a strange suspended peace. Gabriel spent every night at the cabin, teaching Nadia about pack dynamics, shifter culture, and the intricacies of the claiming ceremony that loomed before them. During the day, he returned to pack territory to maintain order and prepare for the ritual. The pups were thriving. Cody's wound had healed completely. Shifter healing was truly remarkable. And both pups were growing stronger, more playful. They'd begun to show early signs of their human sides, attempting to stand on hind legs, making sounds that were almost words, watching Nadia and Gabriel with an intelligence that went beyond animal instinct. They'll shift for the first time within the month. Gabriel explained one evening as they watched the pups play fight in front of the fireplace. It'll be painful for them, confusing. They'll need both of us to guide them through it. Both of us? Nadia glanced at him. You mean you're planning to stay? Even after they're strong enough to return to the pack? Gabriel's expression was unreadable. Where else would I be? Leading your pack, being alpha. I can do both. Gabriel's hand found hers, his fingers interlacing with hers. The claiming ceremony makes you my mate, Nadia. That means we share everything, territory, responsibility, life. Where I go, you go. What's mine becomes yours. Nadia's pulse quickened. Even your pack? Especially my pack. Gabriel's eyes blazed gold in the firelight. After the ceremony, you'll be Luna, second only to me in authority. What you say carries the weight of law. That's insane, Nadia breathed. I don't know anything about leading wolves. You know about compassion, about mercy, about seeing people, seeing us as more than just beasts. Gabriel squeezed her hand. That's what Tyler believed in. That's what this pack needs. Not another warrior, a healer. A bridge between what we are and what we could be. The weight of it pressed down on Nadia's chest. What if I fail? What if I make a mistake that gets someone killed? Then we deal with it together, Gabriel said simply. But I trust you, Nadia, and trust is something I don't give lightly. A howl split the night close, urgent, filled with warning. Gabriel was on his feet instantly, his body tensed for violence. That's the perimeter alarm. Someone's crossed into our territory. Rogues? Nadia stood, instinctively moving to place herself between the pups and the door. I don't know. Gabriel was already shifting, his body contorting into his massive wolf form. Stay inside. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. He was gone before Nadia could respond, disappearing into the darkness. Nadia scooped up both pups, carrying them to the bathroom, the most defensible room in the cabin. She grabbed her silver knife and Gabriel's phone, then barricaded herself inside, her heart hammering. The howling intensified. Not just one voice now, but many, a chorus of rage and challenge that made Nadia's blood run cold. Minutes crawled by like hours. Nadia sat on the bathroom floor, the pups pressed against her chest, and listened to the sounds of battle echoing through the forest. Snarls, growls, the snap of teeth meeting flesh. Gabriel's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Tell Gabriel his brother sends his regards. Nelson. Nadia's blood turned to ice. Brother? Gabriel had never mentioned another brother. The phone buzzed again. Another text. The pups belong with family. Real family. Not some human pretender playing mother. And then, we're coming for them. Nadia's hand shook as she typed a response to Gabriel's number. Someone named Nelson is texting threats. Says he's your brother. Says he's coming for the pups. The reply was immediate. Get out. Take the pups and run. Nelson is Tyler's twin. He was exiled 5 years ago for trying to overthrow me. If he's back, he's here to finish what he started. Go now. Nadia didn't hesitate. She shoved the phone in her pocket, grabbed the pups, and threw open the bathroom door. The main cabin was empty, silent, too silent. She ran for the back door, the one that led directly into the densest part of the forest, and yanked it open. A man stood on the threshold. He looked almost exactly like the photographs Nadia had seen of Tyler. Same dark hair, same sharp features, same build, but his eyes were different, cold, calculating, empty of the warmth that Gabriel said his brother had possessed. Hello, Nadia, Nelson Parsons said, his voice smooth as silk. I've heard so much about you. Nadia stepped back, clutching the pups tighter. Stay away from us. Nelson smiled, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to collect what's mine. My brother's sons. My nephews. They're under Gabriel's protection. Gabriel killed my twin, Nelson said, and there was venom in his voice now. Oh, he didn't do it directly, but his orders got Tyler killed. His arrogance, his refusal to adapt. Tyler died because Gabriel was too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to retreat when the rogues attacked. He took a step forward, so I'm taking what Gabriel loves most. First, the pups, then you, and finally his pack. You're insane. I'm justified, Nelson corrected. Gabriel exiled me because I challenged his leadership, because I told him he was becoming a tyrant. And what happened? Tyler died. Alfreda died. The pack lost its heart because Gabriel was too busy playing God to actually lead. Nadia's mind raced. She couldn't outrun a shifter, couldn't fight him. Her only option was to stall, to buy time for Gabriel to arrive. If you love Tyler, Nadia said carefully, then you should want what's best for his sons. Taking them from the only stability they've known isn't what's best. Stability? Nelson laughed. You mean being raised by a human who's playing house with the alpha? That's not stability. That's a fantasy. And fantasies always end in blood. Then why are you here? Nadia challenged. If you really believe that, why not just kill me and take them? Nelson's expression flickered. Because Tyler loved you. Nadia blinked. What? He never met you. Nelson continued. But he knew about you. He read your father's research, followed your work. He used to tell me that if anyone could bridge the gap between humans and shifters, it would be someone like you, someone who saw us as more than monsters. His voice turned bitter. He was wrong, of course. Humans only see us as threats or opportunities, nothing in between. That's not true, isn't it? Nelson's eyes blazed gold. Your father documented us like we were specimens. Your government hunts us. Your people destroy our habitats, invade our territories, and then act surprised when we fight back. He gestured to the cabin. And now you're here, playing mother to shifter pups, and you honestly expect me to believe you're different? I don't expect you to believe anything, Nadia, but I know what I am. I know I found 2 babies who needed help, and I didn't run. I didn't exploit them. I didn't see them as research or opportunities. I saw them as children, and I'll protect them with my life if I have to." Nelson stared at her for a long moment, then he laughed a harsh, broken sound. "You really mean that, don't you? You'd actually die for them?" "Yes. Why?" "Because someone has to," Nadia said simply. "Because they're orphans, just like me. Because they deserve a chance to grow up knowing they're loved, not just tolerated. Because," she stopped, her voice cracking, "because your brother believed people could be better than their worst instincts, and I'm trying to honor that belief." Something shifted in Nelson's expression. The cold calculation faltered, replaced by raw, unfiltered grief. "Tyler was an idiot," Nelson whispered. "He believed in redemption, in second chances, in the goodness of people who'd never shown him anything but cruelty, and it got him killed." "No," Nadia said firmly. "It got him remembered. It got him loved. It made him someone worth mourning." Nelson's hands clenched into fists. "I miss him. Every day I miss him. And I can't. I can't forgive Gabriel for not saving him, for not being there when Tyler needed him most." "Then don't forgive him," Nadia said. "But don't punish his sons for your grief. They didn't choose any of this. They're innocent." "No one's innocent," Nelson said, but his voice had lost its edge. A growl erupted from behind Nelson, and suddenly Gabriel was there, massive, bloodied, his eyes blazing with fury. He placed himself between Nelson and Nadia, teeth bared in a snarl that promised death. Nelson shifted immediately into wolf form identical to Tyler's form. Nadia realized with a jolt, the same silver-gray fur, the same build. The brothers circled each other. And Nadia knew she was watching something that had been building for years. Two siblings broken by loss and betrayal, finally coming face to face. Gabriel lunged first, and Nelson met him mid-air. They collided with devastating force, and Nadia had to shield the pups as blood sprayed across the clearing. But this fight was different from the one with Rodolfo. This wasn't about dominance or pack law. This was personal, brutal. Two brothers trying to destroy each other because they didn't know how to process their grief any other way. "Stop!" Nadia screamed. "Both of you, stop." Neither of them listened. They were too far gone, too consumed by rage and pain and years of resentment. Nadia did the only thing she could think of. She stepped between them. Time seemed to slow. Gabriel and Nelson both saw her at the same moment. Both tried to stop their momentum. But it was too late. Nelson's claws raked across Nadia's shoulder, tearing through fabric and flesh. Gabriel's jaws snapped closed on empty air, inches from her throat. Both brothers shifted back to human form instantly, horror written across their faces. "Nadia." Gabriel reached for her, but she stumbled back. Clutching the pups with one arm, her other hand pressed against the bleeding wound on her shoulder. "Enough," she gasped. Tyler wouldn't want this. He wouldn't want his brothers killing each other over guilt and grief. He'd want, she swayed, the pain and blood loss catching up to her. He'd want you to protect his sons, together. Nelson stared at her, at the blood on his claws, at the pups crying in her arms. "I didn't mean I know," Nadia interrupted. "I know you didn't, but that's what happens when you let rage control you. Innocent people get hurt." Gabriel caught her as her legs gave out, cradling her carefully against his chest. "You stupid, brave, reckless woman," he breathed. "You could have died, but I didn't," Nadia said. Her vision was blurring, darkness creeping in at the edges, and now you two need to talk. Like brothers, not enemies. The world tilted. And Nadia's last thought before darkness claimed her was that the pups were still crying. Still scared, still needing someone to tell them everything would be okay. She just hoped she'd wake up to keep that promise. Chapter 10. Rise of the Luna. Nadia woke to the sound of arguing. "Your fault she's lying here bleeding." "My fault? You're the one who attacked." "I wouldn't have been here if you'd protected Tyler like you were supposed to." "Enough." The third voice was female, sharp with authority. "Anne, both of you are acting like children. Tyler would be ashamed. Nadia's eyes fluttered open. She was back in the cabin, lying on the couch. Her shoulder throbbed with a deep, bone-atching pain. But when she looked down, she saw it had been carefully bandaged. The scent of antiseptic and herbs filled the air. Gabriel sat in a chair beside her, his face haggard, dark circles under his eyes. Nelson stood by the window, his posture rigid with tension. Anne moved between them like a referee, her expression torn between exhaustion and concern. "She's awake," Anne said, noticing Nadia's open eyes. Gabriel was at her side instantly, his hand finding hers, his touch achingly gentle. "How do you feel?" "Like I got clawed by a werewolf," Nadia croaked. Her throat was dry, raw. Gabriel's expression cracked with guilt. "I'm so sorry. If I'd been faster, if I'd stop," Nadia interrupted. She squeezed his hand weakly. "Where are the pups?" With Freddie and Alyssa, Anne supplied. "They're safe, frightened, but safe." Relief flooded through Nadia. "Good, that's good." Nelson approached slowly, his movements careful, non-threatening. Up close, the resemblance to Tyler was even more striking, but so were the differences. Tyler's eyes in the photographs had been warm, kind. Nelson's were haunted, filled with a pain that seemed bottomless. "I owe you an apology," Nelson said quietly. "I came here for revenge, to hurt Gabriel by taking what he loved. I didn't expect," he gestured helplessly, "I didn't expect you to be real, to actually care about them, about any of this." "Why did you think I wouldn't?" Nadia asked. Nelson's jaw tightened. "Because humans have never cared about us before. Because every interaction I've had with your kind has ended in betrayal or violence. Because," his voice dropped to a whisper, "because I couldn't understand why anyone would risk everything for children that weren't theirs. For a pack that wasn't theirs. For a monster like Gabriel." "He's not a monster," Nadia said firmly, despite the pain lancing through her shoulder. "And neither are you. You're both just broken, grieving human, despite what you are." "Tyler used to say things like that," Nelson said. And for the first time, his expression softened with something other than rage. "He used to tell me that our humanity was what made us strong, not our wolves. That compassion was more powerful than claws." "He was right," Nadia said. Nelson looked at Gabriel. "She stepped between us. She could have died, and she stepped between us to stop us from killing each other." "I know," Gabriel said hoarsely. "Believe me, I know." "Why?" Nelson demanded. "Why would she do that?" "Because Tyler's sons were watching," Nadia said quietly. Both men turned to stare at her. "They were in my arms, Nelson. Cody and Rex. They were watching their uncles, the only family they have left, try to tear each other apart. And I couldn't let them grow up thinking that's what family means. That violence is the only answer to pain." Nelson's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "They were watching? Yes, God." Nelson sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "What have I become? What has grief turned me into?" Gabriel stood and moved to his brother's side. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then slowly Gabriel placed a hand on Nelson's shoulder. "It's turned you into someone who needs to come home," Gabriel said quietly. "Someone who needs his pack, his family, his brother." Nelson looked up, shock written across his face. "You exiled me." "I was wrong," Gabriel said, and the admission clearly cost him. "I exiled you because you challenged my authority. But the truth is, you were right. I was becoming a tyrant, too rigid, too unwilling to adapt. And it cost us Tyler." His voice cracked. "It cost us our brother. I blamed you," Nelson whispered. "For 5 years, I've blamed you for every bad thing that happened. For Tyler's death, for Alfreda's, for the pack's losses. I blamed myself too," Gabriel admitted. "I still do. Every day, I wake up wondering if there was something I could have done differently. Some choice that would have kept them alive." "There wasn't," Anne said firmly. Both men looked at her. "I was there when the rogues attacked. I saw Tyler and Alfreda fight. They knew the odds. They knew they might not survive. But they chose to protect the pack anyway. That wasn't Gabriel's failure. That was their choice, their sacrifice. And dishonoring it by tearing each other apart spits on everything they died for. The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. Finally, Nelson stood and extended his hand to Gabriel. "I want to come home, if you'll have me." Gabriel stared at the outstretched hand, then pulled Nelson into a fierce embrace. "You're my brother. You'll always have a home with me." Nelson's composure shattered. He clung to Gabriel, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs, and Gabriel held him, his own tears falling freely. Two broken men finally allowing themselves to grieve. Nadia watched through blurred vision, her own tears streaming down her face. This was what Tyler had believed in. Not violence or dominance, but the possibility of healing, of forgiveness, of brothers finding their way back to each other through the darkness. Anne knelt beside Nadia, checking her bandages. "You did something remarkable today," she said quietly. "You gave them permission to be vulnerable, to be human. That takes extraordinary courage or extraordinary stupidity," Nadia said, managing a weak smile. "Sometimes they're the same thing," Anne replied with a wink. The door burst open and Freddie stumbled in carrying both pups. "They wouldn't stop crying," he said breathlessly. "They keep calling for Mama." Cody whimpered, his voice tiny but unmistakably human. "Want Mama." Everyone froze. Did he just? Nadia's voice caught. He shifted. Anne breathed. "He's too young. That shouldn't be possible for another 2 weeks at least." But Cody was changing before their eyes, his wolf form melting away, replaced by a small, chubby toddler with dark hair and golden eyes. He reached for Nadia, tears streaming down his face. "Mama hurt. Mama hurt." Rex followed suit, his transformation equally miraculous. Within seconds, 2 toddlers sat where the pups had been, both crying, both reaching for Nadia. Gabriel moved immediately, lifting both boys and bringing them to Nadia. "Careful," he warned them gently. "Mama's hurt. We have to be gentle." Both boys climbed onto the couch, pressing close to Nadia without touching her injured shoulder. Cody's small hand found hers, gripping it tightly. Rex curled against her other side, his face buried in her shirt. "Mama safe?" Cody whispered. "Mama safe," Nadia assured him, her heart breaking and rebuilding simultaneously. "I'm right here, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere." Nelson stared at the scene, his expression complex. "They called you Mama." "I know," Nadia said softly. "Tyler's sons. They see you as their mother. I know." Nelson's voice was rough with emotion. He would have loved that. Tyler. He would have loved knowing his sons had someone who'd die for them, someone who'd stand between warring alphas just to keep them safe. He looked at Gabriel. "You chose well, brother." Gabriel's hand found the back of Nadia's neck, his touch protective, possessive. "She chose me. I'm just trying to be worthy of that choice." "You are," Nadia said, turning to meet his eyes. "You are. You are." Anne cleared her throat. "The claiming ceremony. It needs to happen soon. Nadia's injury complicates things, but the pack needs to see the formal binding, especially now that Nelson's returned. There will be questions, concerns. The ceremony will establish stability." "Can it wait until I can stand without passing out?" Nadia asked. 3 days, Anne said. "Shifter saliva in the wound will speed your healing. You should be functional by then, if not fully recovered." "Shifter saliva?" Nadia's nose wrinkled. Gabriel's lips quirked into a small smile. "Don't worry. I'll make it as pleasant as possible." That's not reassuring. It's not meant to be. Over the next 3 days, the cabin transformed into something that felt like a real home. Nelson returned to pack territory to formally request reinstatement, a request Gabriel granted immediately, restoring his brother as third, just below Rodolfo in the hierarchy. The pack's response was mixed. Some welcomed Nelson's return, seeing it as proof that Gabriel was capable of mercy and growth. Others were suspicious, remembering the division Nelson had caused before his exile. But when word spread that Nelson had helped save Nadia from a rogue attack, a creative reinterpretation of events that both brothers agreed upon, the resistance faded. Nelson became the uncle who'd protected the Luna to be a hero, not a villain. Nadia spent the time recovering and learning to navigate life with two toddler shifters. Cody and Rex couldn't maintain human form for long. They'd shift back to pups after a few hours, exhausted by the effort. But each day, they lasted a little longer, spoke a few more words, showed more of their personalities. Cody was serious, thoughtful, constantly asking questions. Rex was playful, mischievous, always finding trouble. Together, they were a handful and a blessing in equal measure, and Nadia loved them with a ferocity that surprised her. These weren't just Tyler's sons anymore. They were hers, her boys, her family. Gabriel spent every moment he could at the cabin, teaching Nadia pack protocol, explaining the claiming ceremony, preparing her for the life that awaited her as Luna. "You'll be expected to mediate disputes," he explained, one evening as they sat by the fire, the boys asleep between them, "to offer counsel to represent the pack's interests when I'm not present." "That sounds terrifying." "It is," Gabriel agreed. "But you won't be alone. Anne will guide you. Rodolfo will support you. He's actually been singing your praises since the challenge. Says anyone brave enough to step between fighting alphas deserves respect or a psychiatric evaluation." Gabriel laughed, the sound warm and genuine, maybe both. Nadia leaned against him, careful of her healing shoulder. "Are you sure about this? About making me Luna? I'm human, Gabriel. I'll never be a shifter. I'll always be the weakest link. You're the strongest person I know," Gabriel said firmly. "Physically, no. You can't match our strength or speed. But strength isn't just about muscles and claws. It's about courage, about standing up when every instinct says to run, about choosing compassion when violence would be easier." He turned to face her, his golden eyes intense. "You're not the weakest link, Nadia. You're the heart of this pack, and I need you beside me. Even if I make mistakes?" "Especially then," Gabriel said. "Because I need someone who'll check my worst impulses, who'll remind me that there's more to leadership than fear and dominance, who'll help me build the pack Tyler dreamed of." He cupped her face gently. "I need you, Nadia Gates, not despite your humanity, but because of it." Nadia kissed him then, soft and slow and full of promise. When they broke apart, both breathless, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. "3 days," he whispered. 3 days and you're mine forever. No takebacks." "No takebacks," Nadia agreed. The claiming ceremony took place on the full moon, in the same clearing where Gabriel had fought Rodolfo and Nelson. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Celebratory, hopeful. The entire pack had gathered. Over 50 wolves in human form, dressed in formal attire that somehow managed to blend elegance with feral energy. Torches lined the clearing, casting dancing shadows across the assembled faces. Anne had helped Nadia prepare, dressing her in a simple white dress that left her shoulders bare. "The mark needs to be visible," Anne explained. "And the dress needs to be easy to remove if you shift, which you won't. But tradition is tradition." "I'm going to pass out," Nadia said, staring at her reflection. "Probably," Anne agreed cheerfully. "But Gabriel will catch you. He always does." Now, standing at the edge of the clearing with Gabriel beside her, Nadia felt the full weight of what she was about to do. 50 pairs of eyes watched her, some curious, some supportive, some openly hostile. Gabriel squeezed her hand. "Ready?" "No." "Good. That means you're smart enough to understand what you're getting into." They walked into the clearing together. Anne stood at the center, elevated on a natural stone platform, her presence commanding. "We gather under the full moon to witness a bonding," Anne began, her voice carrying to every corner of the clearing. "Gabriel Houston, Alpha of the Mountain Pack, has chosen Nadia Gates as his mate, as his Luna, as his equal and partner in all things." A murmur rippled through the crowd, not all of it approving. "This bonding breaks tradition," Anne continued. "Never before has an alpha chosen a human as mate. But tradition exists to serve us, not enslave us, and sometimes growth requires that we write new traditions. She looked at Gabriel. Do you, Gabriel Houston, alpha of this pack, claim Nadia Gates as your mate before these witnesses? I do, Gabriel said, his voice strong and clear. And do you swear to protect her, provide for her, honor her choices, and share your authority with her as Luna of this pack? I swear it on my life and the lives of my ancestors. Anne turned to Nadia. Do you, Nadia Gates, accept Gabriel Houston as your mate? Do you accept the responsibility of Luna, knowing that you will be bound to this pack, their welfare, their survival, for as long as you live? Nadia's voice shook, but she didn't hesitate. I accept. Then let the marking begin. Gabriel pulled Nadia close, his hand gentle on the back of her neck. This will hurt, he whispered, but I'll be as quick as I can. I trust you, Nadia said. Gabriel's eyes blazed gold, and then he was shifting, not fully but partially. His canines elongated, his eyes remained golden, his features taking on a more feral cast. He bent his head to the junction of Nadia's neck and shoulder, the spot where her injury had healed, leaving only a faint scar, and he bit down. Pain exploded through Nadia's body, not just physical, but something deeper. Something that felt like her very soul was being branded. She gasped, her hands clutching Gabriel's shoulders, her knees threatening to give out. But Gabriel held her steady, his arms wrapped around her, taking her weight. He didn't let go, didn't release her until the mark was complete. When he finally pulled back, blood stained his lips. Nadia's shoulder burned, throbbed, but when she looked down, she saw it. A perfect set of canine marks that seemed to glow with an inner light. It's done, Gabriel said, shifting back to fully human. He licked the wound gently, and Nadia felt a strange tingling sensation as his saliva accelerated the healing. Within seconds, the pain had dulled to a manageable ache. Anne raised her hands. The bond is sealed. Nadia Gates is now Nadia Houston, Luna of the Mountain Pack. What one speaks, both speak. What one commands, both command. They are two halves of one whole, and to harm one is to harm both. The pack erupted into howls, some celebratory, some merely acknowledging the new hierarchy, but the ritual was complete. Nadia was Luna. Gabriel pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. How do you feel? Like I just got branded, Nadia said. Which I did, but you're mine now, Gabriel said, his voice rough with emotion. Officially, irrevocably mine, and you're mine, Nadia reminded him. Forever, Gabriel agreed. The celebration that followed was overwhelming. Wolves approached in a steady stream, some offering congratulations, others pledging loyalty, a few simply observing the new Luna with wary curiosity. Nelson approached, with Cody and Rex in tow, both in toddler form, dressed in tiny formal clothes that made Nadia's heart melt. They wanted to see Mama, Nelson said, setting them down. Both boys immediately ran to Nadia, hugging her legs. Mama pretty, Rex declared. Mama ours, Cody added possessively. The pack laughed, and Nadia scooped up both boys, ignoring the protest from her marked shoulder. Yes, I'm yours, always. Gabriel wrapped his arms around all three of them, and for a moment the world narrowed to just their family, unconventional, chaotic, and absolutely perfect. Thank you, Gabriel whispered against Nadia's hair, for choosing this, for choosing us. Thank you for seeing me, Nadia replied. For seeing all of me, not just the parts that were convenient. Always, Gabriel promised. As the celebration continued around them, as the pack danced and howled and embraced this new chapter, Nadia understood that this was what her father had been searching for all along. Not proof of monsters, but proof of magic. Proof that love could bridge impossible divides. Proof that family wasn't about blood, it was about choice. She looked at Gabriel, at the boys, at the pack that had somehow become hers, and smiled. Welcome home, Luna, Anne said, appearing beside them with goblets of wine. Nadia took the offered drink and raised it high. To Tyler, she said, who believed we could be better than our worst instincts, who saw possibility where others saw only division. To Tyler, the pack echoed, their voices rising to the moon. And somewhere, in the wind rustling through the trees and the howl of a distant wolf, Nadia thought she heard an answer. A brother's blessing, a legacy fulfilled, a promise kept. The pack had found its heart again, and this time they wouldn't let it go. Epilogue. 1 year later, the cabin had been expanded, additional rooms added, space created for a growing family. Cody and Rex had their own bedroom now, decorated with drawings and toys, and all the chaos of 4-year-old shifter twins. Nadia stood on the porch, watching Gabriel teach the boys to track in the forest. Cody was all concentration, his nose to the ground. Rex kept getting distracted by butterflies. "They're getting so big," Anne said, appearing beside Nadia with tea. "Too big," Nadia agreed. "Soon they won't need me anymore." "Children always need their mothers," Anne said wisely. "Just in different ways." Nadia's hand drifted unconsciously to her stomach, where a new life was growing. She hadn't told Gabriel yet, wanted to wait for the right moment. But Anne noticed, of course. The elder always noticed. "He'll be thrilled," Anne said softly. "Or terrified," Nadia countered. "A human shifter hybrid? We don't even know if that's possible." "You're living proof that impossible things happen every day," Anne said. "Trust the process. Trust your mate. Trust yourself." Gabriel emerged from the forest with the boys, all 3 of them laughing. When he saw Nadia, his entire face lit up with a joy that still took her breath away. "Mama! Mama!" The boys ran to her, talking over each other about the rabbit they'd tracked and the bird's nest they'd found. Gabriel followed more slowly, his eyes never leaving Nadia's face. "You're glowing," he observed. "It's the pregnancy hormones," Nadia said before she could stop herself. Gabriel froze. "What?" Nadia bit her lip. Surprise. Gabriel crossed the distance in 3 strides, pulling her close, his hand splaying across her still flat stomach. "You're pregnant?" We're having a baby?" "We're having a baby," Nadia confirmed. Gabriel's eyes blazed gold. And then he was kissing her, fierce and desperate and full of love. The boys made gagging noises, but neither Gabriel nor Nadia paid attention. When they finally broke apart, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you," he whispered. "For this, for everything. For being the family I never thought I'd have. Thank you for finding me," Nadia replied. "For choosing me when you could have walked away." "Never," Gabriel said. "I'll never walk away from you. From this. From us." Behind them, the pack was gathering for the evening meal, a tradition Nadia had instituted, where everyone ate together under the stars. Nelson helped set up tables. Rodolfo tended the fire. Alyssa corralled the younger wolves, who were getting too rowdy, and Nadia looked at all of it, at the family she'd built, the life she'd chosen, the impossible love that had bloomed from tragedy, and knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The pack had arrived to kill. They'd found their pups asleep on her chest, and the alpha had made her Luna. But more than that, they'd made each other whole. And that, Nadia thought as Gabriel spun her around, laughing, the boys cheering, the pack howling their approval. That was the real magic. Not the shifting or the strength or the supernatural abilities, but the love. Always the love. If you had to choose between safety and saving 2 innocent lives, knowing that choice could cost you everything, what would you do? And here's the harder question. Would you trust someone who killed your father as they promised to protect you? Comment, run, or stand, and tell me your reasoning. I need to know where you stand.